Why does that person always appear in your mind? Why does their face, their voice, their presence seem to be lingering in your thoughts, no matter how hard you try to push them away? Perhaps it is a connection you once shared, a relationship that left a lasting impression. Or maybe it is the unresolved emotions, the questions that remain unanswered, the part of you that yearns for closure. Whatever the reason, the result is the same: a constant mental preoccupation with someone who no longer occupies your life in the way they once did. But what if I told you that the answer to this persistent thought pattern, this cycle of mental unrest, could be found not by forcing yourself to forget, but through an understanding that comes from the ancient wisdom of Zen Buddhism? Zen teaches us to look deeply into our thoughts, to understand their nature, and most importantly, to stop attaching ourselves to them. In this very moment, you might be wondering why this person keeps coming to your mind, and the answer lies in the way we engage with our thoughts. Zen Buddhism offers us a perspective on this issue that helps us break free from the mental loops that keep us stuck in the past, longing for what was or worrying over what could have been. Zen teaches us the concept of non-attachment, the idea that holding on to thoughts, especially those about others, creates suffering. When we cling to thoughts, especially thoughts about a person, we feed them with our energy, allowing them to dominate our mind. This attachment gives rise to a mental pattern that repeats itself, and in doing so, we keep that person alive in our minds long after they have moved on, or even if they never were present in the way we had hoped. To understand why this person won't leave your mind, we must first explore the concept of attachment. Attachment in Zen terms is the clinging to something, whether it is a person, a desire, an idea, or a memory that binds us. Zen teaches that attachment is a source of suffering, and that in order to find peace, we must learn to release these attachments. It is not that we forget or ignore the person who occupies our thoughts, but rather that we stop holding on to them. In the Buddhist practice of mindfulness, you are taught to observe your thoughts without identifying with them, to see them as they are fleeting, impermanent, and not defining who you are. Your thoughts, including those about this person, are just that, thoughts. They are not permanent parts of you. They do not define you. By recognizing their impermanence and not attaching to them, you create the mental space to release them. And in doing so, you make room for true peace. When we hold on to thoughts of someone, especially when those thoughts are laced with emotion, we are essentially resisting the flow of life. Zen teaches us that life is constantly changing, and that by holding on to the past or imagining the future, we disrupt the natural flow of the present moment. This resistance, this clinging, is the source of the discomfort you feel when this person enters your thoughts. But when you begin to practice non-attachment, you begin to see these thoughts for what they truly are: passing moments like clouds drifting across the sky. They come, they linger, and they eventually fade away. When you stop feeding them with your energy, when you stop resisting them, they have no power over you. They lose their hold on your mind. The process of releasing these thoughts is not about pushing them away forcefully. Zen teaches us that the more we resist something, the more we are attached to it. The key is not to resist the thoughts, but to allow them to come and go without judgment or attachment. Instead of focusing on the thoughts, and trying to make them disappear, Zen teaches us to focus on the present moment. Bring your attention back to the breath, to the gentle rise and fall of your chest, to the sensations in your body, and to the peace that exists in the present. When your mind begins to wander back to that person, gently acknowledge the thought and then let it go. Let it pass without clinging to it. The more you practice this, the more you will find that the thoughts of that person will begin to fade into the background, no longer taking up precious mental space. Zen encourages us to develop mindfulness, the ability to observe our thoughts and feelings without being overwhelmed by them. Mindfulness is the key to freeing ourselves from the constant mental chatter and the persistent thoughts of others. When you practice mindfulness, you create a mental space where you can observe these thoughts from a place of detachment, not allowing them to affect you or dictate your emotions. This practice takes time and patience. It is not an instant solution, but a gradual process of retraining the mind. With consistent practice, you will find that the thoughts of this person become less frequent and less intense. You will learn to view them with equanimity, not allowing them to stir up old emotions or bring you back to a place of longing or regret. The person may still appear in your thoughts from time to time, but they will no longer have the same power over you. The space between the thoughts will grow wider, and you will find yourself becoming more and more at peace with the natural ebb and flow of your mind. As you continue to practice mindfulness and non-attachment, you will begin to experience a profound sense of peace that comes from within. The more you let go of attachments, the more freedom you will feel. The more you allow yourself to simply be to rest in the present moment, the more you will discover the deep peace that lies beneath the surface of your thoughts. This is the Zen solution to why that person won't leave your mind, by learning to release the attachment, to observe your thoughts without clinging, and to embrace the peace of the present moment. The person no longer occupies your mind in the same way. You are free. Attachment, as Zen Buddhism teaches, is the root of much suffering. It's the mental grasping that keeps us chained to certain thoughts, to specific emotions, and even to people. This attachment to people, whether through love, desire, or unresolved conflict, creates a powerful mental bond. And when the bond is no longer active in reality, it still lingers in the mind. We often don't realize that by holding on to these thoughts, we are the ones keeping them alive, replaying them over and over, unable to release them. You may wonder why that person is so persistent in your thoughts, why their memory keeps resurfacing even though you have no control over it. Zen teaches that this persistent thinking is a result of attachment. When we hold on to someone, whether through idealization or unresolved emotions, we become mentally entangled in them. The key to understanding why this person keeps occupying your mind lies in recognizing this attachment. Zen reminds us that our thoughts are impermanent. They arise, they linger, and they fade. But when we attach to them, when we believe that they must remain, they become a source of suffering. When you think about that person, your mind gravitates toward the attachment you have created. Zen offers a profound lesson in recognizing that all things are impermanent, including our thoughts and attachments. The very nature of the mind is that thoughts arise and dissipate, much like waves on the surface of the ocean. When we are attached to a specific wave, we stop seeing the vastness of the ocean. The person you are obsessing over is like that wave, and your attachment to them is what prevents you from experiencing the full expanse of your own mind. Let go of that attachment, and you will find that the mental clutter fades away. But detachment in Zen does not mean you stop caring or that you completely forget about that person. It simply means you stop clinging to the thought of them. You stop seeing them as something that needs your attention or your emotional energy. Instead of grasping, you learn to let go and observe. Zen teaches us to view our thoughts without getting caught up in them, to see them for what they are, temporary, fleeting, and without intrinsic power. Thoughts come and go, but it's our attachment to them that makes them feel like they are permanent. Letting go means allowing these thoughts to come and go naturally, without holding on, without fighting them, and without letting them define your peace. Zen meditation provides a powerful tool to help break the cycle of attachment. Through mindfulness, we learn to observe our thoughts without identifying with them. You may find yourself focusing on this person again, but when you practice mindfulness, you will begin to notice that the thoughts become less urgent. You can step back and simply witness them without being swept away by them. This practice doesn't require you to push the thoughts away forcefully. It's about letting them come and then watching them pass. The more you practice this, the more you will notice how thoughts of that person lose their grip on you. Your mind is like a clear sky, and thoughts are simply clouds drifting by. The more you practice mindfulness, the more you allow the clouds to drift without holding on to them, and eventually, the sky becomes clear again. This is the first step toward releasing the attachment that keeps that person on your mind. Another core aspect of Zen practice is the concept of non-self. Zen teaches that we are not our thoughts. We are not our memories or our emotions. These are all transient phenomena, ever-changing and impermanent. When we attach to a thought or memory, we mistakenly identify it as part of who we are. This attachment to the self-concept is what keeps us bound to past experiences and keeps us holding on to certain thoughts, such as the ones about this person. Zen helps us break free from this illusion of a permanent self by teaching us to see that all things, including our thoughts and identities, are fluid. When you stop identifying with the thought of that person, when you stop defining yourself by the way they make you feel, you begin to break the cycle of attachment. You can then begin to experience yourself as you truly are, free, open, and present. The key to breaking free from the obsessive thinking about someone lies in recognizing that thoughts, like everything else, are impermanent. This understanding, rooted in Zen, allows you to take a step back from your attachment to that person. You no longer need to hold on to the thought of them as if it is an unchangeable part of who you are. When you let go of this attachment, the thoughts about them become less frequent and less intense. You will begin to feel lighter, more at peace, as if a heavy weight has been lifted from your mind. With this understanding, you are now able to see thoughts for what they are: temporary experiences that come and go without needing to cling to them. Zen teaches us that our attachment to people, places, and even ideas causes suffering. But when we release that attachment and allow things to be as they are, we are free. Freedom comes not through controlling our thoughts or trying to stop them, but through seeing them as impermanent and allowing them to come and go without resistance. When you release your attachment to this person, you free yourself from the mental prison you've created. Instead of obsessing, you begin to live in the present moment, where peace resides. It is this liberation from attachment, this practice of mindfulness and non-self that leads to freedom from the constant presence of that person in your mind. You will find that peace and clarity arise naturally, and you no longer need to dwell on what has already passed. The more you practice releasing attachment, the more you will experience the freedom of letting go. It is not about forgetting that person or erasing them from your mind. It is about not clinging to the thoughts about them. You allow them to come, but you no longer make them part of who you are. In doing so, you begin to experience true peace. The nature of thoughts, as Zen Buddhism teaches, is fleeting. Thoughts are like clouds passing across the sky. They come and go, but they are never permanent. When we become attached to a thought, we mistake it for something solid, something that defines us. But in reality, thoughts are impermanent and ever-changing. They arise in the mind, linger for a moment, and then fade away, only to be replaced by new thoughts. The more we resist this natural flow, the more we get caught up in the cycle of attachment. Zen teaches us that the mind, like the sky, is vast and clear. It is only when we cling to our thoughts that we create clouds that block the clarity of our mind. The process of letting go of the person who occupies your thoughts is not about erasing them from your mind. It's about recognizing that they are just one cloud in the vast sky of your mind, and that they will pass just like all thoughts do. When we cling to the idea of that person, we create mental clutter that disturbs the natural flow of our mind. Instead of simply observing the thought and letting it pass, we get caught in it, replaying it over and over, feeding it with our energy. This is where suffering arises. The more you try to push the thought away, the more it resists. But when you allow the thought to come and go without attaching to it, you break free from the cycle of suffering. Zen practice teaches us to observe our thoughts with a sense of detachment, to see them as they are fleeting and impermanent. By doing so, we can begin to shift our relationship with them. The person who occupies your mind is simply a thought, a memory, an emotion. It does not define you. You are not your thoughts, just as you are not your past experiences or your desires. You are the awareness in which these thoughts arise. And as the awareness, you are free to choose whether to attach to these thoughts or to let them pass by. In Zen, this process of observing thoughts without attachment is called mindfulness. Mindfulness is the practice of being present with whatever arises in the mind without clinging to it. It is the practice of being aware of your thoughts and emotions, but not identifying with them. When you observe your thoughts in this way, they lose their power over you. The more you practice mindfulness, the more you will realize that thoughts about that person, like all thoughts, are temporary. They do not define you. They are simply passing moments in the flow of your consciousness. The more you let go of your attachment to this person, the more you free yourself from their hold on your mind. With mindfulness, you create space for peace to enter. The more you practice observing your thoughts without clinging to them, the more naturally your mind becomes still. You may notice that the thoughts about that person become less frequent, less intense, They are no longer a source of suffering. They are simply a part of the flow of your mind, like any other thought. This is the power of mindfulness. It allows you to be present with your thoughts without getting caught up in them. As you continue to practice mindfulness, you will begin to notice that your attachment to this person fades. The thoughts no longer have the same emotional charge. They no longer pull you into a cycle of longing, regret, or desire. Instead, you begin to see them for what they truly are: impermanent thoughts that come and go without any lasting significance. You may also notice that as you release your attachment to this person, you begin to feel lighter, freer. The mental clutter that once filled your mind is cleared away, and in that space, peace begins to emerge. You are no longer bound by the past or by the thoughts of this person. You are free to live in the present, to experience the world as it is without the weight of attachment. Zen teaches us that the mind, when left undisturbed, is naturally clear and peaceful. It is the act of clinging, of attachment, that creates confusion and suffering. When you stop attaching to your thoughts, you return to the natural state of your mind, a state of peace, clarity, and stillness. This is the path to freedom from the persistent thoughts of that person. You do not need to push them away or force them to disappear. Simply observe them without attachment, without resistance, and they will fade on their own. Just as the clouds eventually drift away, so too will the thoughts about this person. When you stop giving them energy, when you stop holding on to them, they lose their power. Zen Buddhism teaches us to embrace the impermanence of life. Everything, including our thoughts and emotions, is constantly changing. The more we resist this natural flow, the more we suffer. But when we learn to embrace the impermanence of our thoughts, we free ourselves from their grip. The person who occupies your thoughts is no longer a permanent fixture in your mind. They are simply a passing moment, a thought that will fade with time. As you continue to practice mindfulness and non-attachment, you will find that the thoughts about them no longer have the same hold over you. You will feel lighter, more at peace, and more present in your own life. You will have freed yourself from the mental prison that attachment creates. And in that freedom, you will discover the true peace that Zen offers. The more you practice mindfulness, the more you will see that all thoughts, including those about that person, are fleeting and impermanent. They come and go, but they do not define you. You are not your thoughts. You are the awareness that observes them, and in that awareness, peace arises. This is the Zen way of releasing attachment, of letting go of the past, and of finding true freedom in the present moment. As you continue to observe your thoughts, you may begin to notice a subtle shift in the way you experience them. Instead of clinging to each passing thought, you find yourself simply witnessing them as they arise and dissolve without any need to hold on to them. This shift is the essence of Zen mindfulness, and it is through this practice that you can begin to break free from the constant mental preoccupation with that person. In Zen Buddhism, the concept of non-self is central to understanding the nature of thoughts. The mind often convinces us that we are our thoughts, that we are defined by the patterns we observe in our minds. But Zen teaches us that we are not our thoughts. Our true nature, our essence, is beyond the thoughts that arise in our minds. Thoughts are simply mental events, fleeting and impermanent, but they do not define who we are. This understanding is key to freeing yourself from the grip of attachment to that person. When you realize that thoughts are not a permanent part of you, you begin to loosen your grip on them. You stop identifying with the thoughts of that person, and instead, you see them as they are temporary and fleeting. The more you practice non-identification with your thoughts, the less power they have over you. You may still experience thoughts about that person, but they no longer have the same emotional charge. They no longer stir up the same feelings of longing, regret, or desire. In this space of non-attachment, you are free to simply observe the thoughts without becoming entangled in them. Zen Buddhism teaches us that the key to breaking free from the cycle of obsessive thinking is understanding the nature of impermanence. Nothing lasts forever, and this includes the thoughts and emotions that fill our minds. When we become attached to a thought, we resist its natural impermanence. We want it to stay, to have meaning, to shape our experience. But when we let go of the need to hold on to the thought, it begins to lose its power. In the same way, the person who occupies your mind is not permanent. They are a part of your past, and like all things in life, they are subject to change and impermanence. When you accept this truth, you begin to release the attachment to them. You no longer need to hold on to the memory, the image, or the idea of who they were. The more you release this attachment, the more you open yourself to the present moment, where peace and stillness reside. Zen mindfulness offers a simple yet powerful tool to help you release the grip of thoughts and attachments. By bringing your awareness to the present moment through your breath, your body, and your surroundings, you shift your focus away from the persistent thoughts about that person. Each breath becomes an anchor, grounding you in the here and now. As you breathe deeply and slowly, you begin to relax your body and mind, allowing the thoughts to come and go without holding on to them. The more you practice this, the easier it becomes to return to the present moment whenever your mind drifts to that person. You begin to recognize that your thoughts are not a reflection of your true self, but simply passing clouds in the sky of your awareness. This realization frees you from the need to engage with the thoughts, and instead, you can observe them with detachment. The person who once occupied your mind becomes less and less significant. Their image fades, and the emotional charge associated with them dissipates. You are left with the peaceful space of non-attachment, where you can simply rest in the present moment. This is the power of Zen mindfulness. By observing your thoughts without attachment, you allow them to pass without being held in place. This practice not only helps you free yourself from the mental grip of that person, but it also brings you back to the truth of who you are. You are not your thoughts, and you are not the person you once clung to. You are the awareness that witnesses the thoughts, the awareness that observes without judgment, without attachment. And in this awareness, peace arises. As you continue to practice mindfulness, you will begin to notice the space between the thoughts, the moments of stillness that exist even in the midst of mental activity. This space is where true peace resides. It is the space of non-attachment, where you can let go of the past and stop identifying with the mental patterns that once held you captive. In this space, you are free. Free from the obsessive thinking about that person, free from the emotional pull that once dominated your mind, and free to embrace the present moment as it is. The more you practice mindfulness and non-attachment, the more you will experience this freedom. The thoughts about that person will come and go, but they will no longer have the same power to disrupt your peace. You will no longer feel pulled into the past, no longer feel trapped by the need for closure or resolution. You will simply be resting in the present, open to whatever arises in your mind, without attaching to it. This is the essence of Zen mindfulness, the ability to observe your thoughts without being overwhelmed by them, the ability to let go of attachment, and the ability to experience peace in the present moment. As you continue on this journey, you will find that your mind becomes quieter, your heart becomes lighter, and you are free from the mental grip of that person. You will begin to experience a deeper sense of peace, a peace that comes from within, that arises naturally when you stop clinging to the past and open yourself to the flow of the present. In Zen, one of the most powerful teachings is the concept of emptiness or shunyata. At first glance, this concept may seem abstract, but its application can bring great clarity and peace to your mind, especially when dealing with the persistent thoughts about someone. Emptiness does not mean nothingness. It means that things, people, thoughts, emotions do not possess inherent, permanent existence. They are transient, dependent on conditions and perceptions. The person who keeps appearing in your thoughts is not fixed in your mind as a permanent presence. They are simply a thought, a mental formation that arises and passes. When you understand that the thoughts of this person are empty of inherent existence, it becomes easier to let go of them. The thoughts themselves are not real in the same way that a person or object is real. They are simply temporary mental events arising due to your attachment, but they do not have a permanent place in your mind. Emptiness teaches you that nothing, not even your thoughts, has lasting substance. They come, they linger for a moment, and they disappear. And just as easily as they come, they can go. When you stop attaching to them, when you stop giving them power by clinging to them, they will naturally fade like a cloud passing through the sky. Understanding emptiness is liberating because it frees you from the need to control or cling to your thoughts. Instead of resisting or fighting against the thoughts about that person, you begin to see them for what they truly are, passing moments in the mind. They are not fixed, and they are not a part of your true self. Your true self, according to Zen, is beyond these transient thoughts. You are the awareness in which these thoughts arise, and you are not defined by them. This understanding allows you to release your attachment to the person occupying your mind. They are simply a cloud passing through your consciousness, and like all clouds, they will eventually fade. The more you accept the impermanence of thoughts, the more naturally they will pass. You will no longer feel the need to hold on to them, to analyze them, or to replay them over and over. Instead, you will simply observe them. And in that observation, you will allow them to dissipate. The teachings of Zen invite you to practice letting go of the need to attach to people, outcomes, or experiences. Attachment creates a cycle of clinging that only leads to suffering. When you cling to thoughts about a person, you are holding on to something that is not real, something that does not exist in the present moment. This clinging is what keeps the thoughts alive in your mind. Zen teaches that by letting go of attachment, you free yourself from the grip of these thoughts. You no longer need to hold on to them because they are not who you are. They do not define you. The more you practice letting go, the more you will experience the peace that arises from within. The thoughts about that person will no longer have the same emotional weight. They will simply be thoughts temporary, passing, and without lasting significance. In Zen, we are encouraged to practice mindfulness, being fully present in the moment, without judgment or attachment. When you bring your attention to the present moment, you shift your focus away from the past or future, away from the mental distractions that keep you tied to thoughts about that person. The present moment is the only place where peace can be found. In this moment, the person who occupies your thoughts is not here. They are only in your mind, and they are only present because you continue to give them attention. By practicing mindfulness, you learn to redirect your attention back to the present, back to the breath, back to the sensations in your body, and away from the thoughts that have no bearing on your current experience. The more you practice this, the more naturally your thoughts about that person will fade into the background. As you deepen your mindfulness practice, you may notice that the thoughts no longer have the same hold over you. They may come, but they no longer stir the same emotions or reactions. You can observe them without attachment, without feeling the need to analyze or respond. And in this space of non-attachment, peace arises. It is the peace that comes from seeing your thoughts for what they are, temporary and impermanent, and from realizing that they do not define you. Zen Buddhism also teaches us that suffering arises when we resist what is. When we resist the thoughts about that person, we are engaging in a battle with our own minds. We want the thoughts to go away, but the more we resist them, the more they seem to persist. Zen invites us to practice acceptance, accepting the thoughts without judgment and without resistance. This doesn't mean that you allow yourself to be swept away by them. It simply means that you acknowledge the thought and then let it go. By accepting the thought as it is without trying to push it away or make it go away, you release the resistance that keeps you trapped in the cycle. The more you practice acceptance, the more you will realize that the thoughts do not have to control you. They come and they go, and in that space, you find freedom. The key to letting go of the person who occupies your mind is acceptance. Acceptance of the thought. Acceptance of the impermanence of that person in your mind, and acceptance of your own role in the process. When you stop fighting against the thoughts, you free yourself from their grip. You allow them to pass naturally without effort, and in that space of acceptance, you create the mental clarity and peace necessary for rest. Zen teaches us that we are not our thoughts. We are the awareness that observes them. When you let go of your attachment to thoughts about that person, you begin to experience the freedom that comes from observing without attachment. You no longer need to hold on to the past or to the idea of who that person was or could have been. You can simply let them go, and in doing so, you free your mind and heart to experience peace in the present moment. You are not defined by the thoughts that pass through your mind. You are the observer, the awareness, and in that awareness, you are free. One of the core principles of Zen is the idea of detachment. This concept, it is often misunderstood, as it may seem to suggest that you should not care about anything or anyone. But that is far from the truth. In Zen, detachment does not mean indifference or lack of compassion. Instead, it refers to the practice of not clinging to things, people, or outcomes. Detachment allows you to experience life fully without being emotionally weighed down by it. This is particularly important when it comes to the thoughts you have about that person. When you are attached to thoughts about someone, you are emotionally entangled with them. You are holding on to something that in the grand scheme of life is impermanent and fleeting. The more you hold on to these thoughts, the more they bind you. Detachment, however, offers you the freedom to experience your thoughts and emotions without becoming attached to them. It is about recognizing that everything, whether it is a person, a situation, or a thought, is temporary. By accepting their impermanence, you release the grip that they have on your mind. The practice of detachment in Zen encourages you to let go of attachment to the past and to the idea of how things should be. When you are attached to a person or a specific outcome, you create mental and emotional patterns that keep you stuck. The thoughts about that person, which you may believe to be permanent, are only there because of your attachment. Zen teaches that when you let go of attachment, you stop reinforcing these patterns. You allow your mind to be free, open, and present. Detachment in Zen doesn't mean that you stop caring or that you forget about the person who occupies your thoughts. It simply means that you release the need to hold on to the emotional charge that is attached to them. You stop defining yourself by the thoughts of that person. You stop identifying with the mental stories and memories that keep you bound to them. Instead, you practice observing these thoughts without attachment, without judgment, and without the need to control them. The more you practice this detachment, the more you will find that the thoughts about that person lose their power over you. You will no longer feel the emotional pull that once kept you attached. The thoughts may still arise, but they will not have the same effect. You will simply observe them, allowing them to pass, just as all thoughts do. One of the ways that Zen helps cultivate detachment is through mindfulness. Mindfulness teaches you to observe the present moment with full awareness, without judgment or attachment. When you bring your attention to the present moment, you shift your focus away from the past or the future, away from the thoughts that keep you bound to that person. You stop projecting your emotions and expectations onto them, and instead, you experience life as it is, free from the need to control or cling. In the practice of mindfulness, you learn to let go of the need for closure or resolution regarding that person. You stop trying to fix the past. Stop wishing for a different outcome, and instead, you accept the present moment as it is. This acceptance allows you to let go of the emotional attachment to the person and the thoughts about them. Mindfulness teaches you to observe your thoughts without being swept away by them. When you think about that person, instead of immediately engaging with the thought, You observe it as it is. You recognize that it is simply a passing mental event, and you let it go. By practicing mindfulness, you create a mental space that allows you to release your attachment to that person. The more you practice this, the more you will notice that the thoughts about that person no longer hold the same emotional charge. You will not be pulled into the same patterns of longing, regret, or attachment. Instead, you will find yourself more present and at peace with the thoughts that arise. In Zen, the concept of detachment is closely tied to the idea of emptiness. Emptiness, or shunyata, refers to the understanding that all things, including thoughts, are empty of inherent existence. This means that nothing has an independent, permanent essence. Everything, including the thoughts about that person, is dependent on conditions. Thoughts arise in the mind due to past experiences, emotions, and attachments, but they are not fixed. They are empty of inherent existence. When you understand this, you stop clinging to the thought of that person as though it is permanent or real. You see that the thought, like everything else, is fleeting and impermanent. The more you recognize the emptiness of these thoughts, the less power they have over you. You no longer need to hold on to them or give them meaning. Instead, you allow them to pass through your mind, observing them without attachment. Zen teaches that this recognition of emptiness allows you to experience life more fully without the mental clutter that attachment creates. When you are not attached to the thoughts about that person, you free yourself from the emotional weight that comes with clinging to them. The thoughts no longer control you. They simply come and go, like clouds drifting across the sky. Zen offers us a powerful way to release our attachment to people and thoughts, especially when they continue to occupy our minds. Detachment does not mean shutting yourself off emotionally or rejecting the person, but rather releasing the hold they have on your thoughts and emotions. It is about letting go of the need to control or define the relationship, and instead allowing the natural flow of life to unfold. When you practice detachment, you stop clinging to the past, and you stop projecting expectations onto the future. You embrace the present moment as it is without needing to hold on to anything. In this space of detachment, you create room for peace, for freedom, and for the natural flow of life. The more you practice detachment, the more you will experience the freedom that comes from releasing attachment to that person. The more you allow yourself to let go, the more your mind will become free light and at ease. You will no longer feel mentally or emotionally bound by thoughts of that person. Instead, you will simply be present in the moment, free from the need to cling to anything. This is the true meaning of detachment in Zen, freedom from attachment, and the peace that arises when you let go. In Zen, mindfulness is not just a practice, it is a way of life. Mindfulness is the art of being fully present in each moment, without judgment, without attachment, and without distraction. When you practice mindfulness, you begin to realize that the thoughts about that person are simply that, thoughts. They are not you. They are not permanent. They do not define you. They are fleeting, like the clouds that drift across the sky. Yet despite their impermanence, these thoughts often carry significant weight. When you engage with them, when you get attached to them, you allow them to take root in your mind. Mindfulness, as a practice, teaches you to step back and simply observe your thoughts. You do not engage with them. You do not judge them. You do not act on them. You simply notice them for what they are: temporary mental events that come and go. The person who occupies your thoughts is just one of many passing thoughts in your mind. And just as clouds pass through the sky, so too will this person fade from your mind when you stop clinging to them. But mindfulness requires patience. It requires a willingness to observe, to sit with the discomfort, and to let go of the need to control your thoughts. The more you practice mindfulness, the easier it becomes to recognize that the thoughts about this person are not permanent. They do not have to remain with you. You can let them pass. The more you observe without attachment, the more the thoughts lose their emotional charge. They may come, but they no longer have the same hold over you. Mindfulness helps you shift your focus away from the past and the future and brings you back to the present. When you are mindful, you are not lost in the memory of this person, nor are you anxiously projecting into the future. You are simply present, fully engaged in the here and now. This practice brings you back to the moment where peace resides. When you bring your attention to the present moment, you realize that the person who occupies your thoughts is not here. They are in your mind, and your mind is the only place where they exist. The moment you let go of the need to cling to the thought of that person, you begin to free yourself from their hold. By practicing mindfulness, you learn to observe your thoughts about them without judgment. You do not need to label them as good or bad. You simply notice them. When you bring your awareness to your breath, to the sensations in your body, and to the world around you, you shift your focus from the past or the future to the present moment. And then in this present moment, you will notice that the thoughts about that person begin to fade into the background. They lose their grip on your mind. The more you practice mindfulness, the more you will notice that you are not your thoughts. Thoughts are like passing clouds, and when you stop identifying with them, they no longer control your mind. The more you observe your thoughts without engaging with them, the more you release your attachment to them. The person who once dominated your thoughts begins to fade away, and in their place, you begin to experience peace. This is the essence of mindfulness in Zen, observing without attachment, allowing the thoughts to come and go without resistance. When you practice mindfulness, you allow space in your mind for other thoughts, for stillness, and for peace. Instead of being consumed by thoughts of that person, you begin to experience the peace that arises when you let go. Mindfulness invites you to be present with whatever arises in your mind without attachment. This means that you do not resist your thoughts about that person. You simply allow them to exist without judgment and let them pass when they are ready. You stop trying to control them, and instead, you focus on your breath, on the sensations in your body, and on the present moment. When you do this, you create mental space, and in that space, the thoughts about the person lose their power. As you practice mindfulness, you may notice that the thoughts no longer have the same emotional intensity. They come, but they do not stir up the same feelings of longing, sadness, or frustration. They are just thoughts, temporary, fleeting, and impermanent. When you stop attaching to them, they lose their emotional charge and you are left with a sense of peace and stillness. The practice of mindfulness is not about controlling your thoughts. It is about creating the space to observe them, to let them come and go without being overwhelmed by them. When you do this, you experience freedom from the thoughts that once dominated your mind. You begin to realize that you are not your thoughts. You are the awareness that observes them. And as the awareness, you are free. When you stop identifying with the thoughts about that person, you begin to release your attachment to them. You no longer feel the need to cling to them, to analyze them, or to replay them over and over. Instead, you observe them without judgment, and in that observation, they begin to fade. The more you practice mindfulness, the more you will realize that your thoughts about that person are not permanent. They are simply passing moments in the flow of your mind. The more you allow them to pass without attachment, the more you will experience peace. Mindfulness teaches us to be present, to observe our thoughts without getting lost in them, and to release our attachment to them. The more you practice this, the more you will find that the thoughts about that person no longer have the same hold over you. You will feel lighter, freer, and more at peace. Mindfulness allows you to be in the present moment, to experience life as it is without clinging to thoughts or emotions. In this space, the thoughts about that person no longer occupy your mind in the same way. They may still arise, but they will not have the same power to disrupt your peace. You will simply observe them, and in that observation, you will find freedom. In Zen, mindfulness is the key to breaking the cycle of obsessive thinking. When you observe your thoughts without attachment, they no longer control you. You become free from the mental patterns that once held you captive. This is the Zen solution to why that person won't leave your mind. By practicing mindfulness, you let go of attachment, and in doing so, you free yourself from their grip. As you continue your journey towards inner peace, you may begin to notice a subtle yet powerful shift in your relationship with your thoughts. This shift occurs as you realize that the breath, something so simple yet profoundly effective, can become your anchor in moments of mental turbulence. Zen Buddhism teaches us that the breath is one of the most powerful tools available to us for grounding our attention in the present moment. The breath is always with us. It's always available and never leaves. It's a steady companion, a bridge between the body and mind, and a constant reminder of the present moment. When you find yourself caught in a whirlwind of thoughts, especially those that concern a person who keeps occupying your mind, turning your attention to the breath can be the key to returning to peace. The breath serves as an anchor because it pulls you out of the constant chatter of the mind and into the simplicity of the present moment. By focusing on the sensation of your breath, whether it's the cool air entering your nostrils or the gentle rise and fall of your chest or belly, you return to the present moment. This practice of mindful breathing brings you back to the here and now, where the thoughts of that person no longer have the same power over you. Every time your mind drifts back to that person, you gently guide your awareness back to the breath. This simple act of returning to the breath is a powerful way to break the cycle of obsessive thinking. It's not about suppressing the thoughts or forcing them away. Rather, it's about acknowledging them and then gently choosing to redirect your focus to something neutral, your breath. The more you practice this, the less power those thoughts have. You will find that, like clouds passing across the sky, the thoughts of that person will come and go without disturbing the peace within you. In Zen, we practice non-resistance to the present moment. Instead of fighting against the thoughts that arise in your mind, you simply observe them without judgment. When you become aware that you are thinking about that person, you don't beat yourself up or try to force the thought out. Instead, you acknowledge it, gently release it, and return your attention to the breath. This process of non-resistance allows you to create a space between yourself and your thoughts. It's in this space that you discover true freedom. You are no longer a prisoner to the thoughts that arise. By returning to the breath, you return to a state of presence where peace exists. Each breath becomes a reminder of the natural flow of life. Inhale, exhale, in and out. Just as the breath flows effortlessly in and out of the body, so too can your thoughts. The more you let go of the need to control them, the more naturally they will flow, without disturbing the stillness of your mind. The breath is also a reminder of the impermanence of everything. Thoughts, emotions, and even people are all temporary, constantly changing, just like the breath. When you observe the breath, you are reminded that just as each inhale is followed by an exhale, every thought that arises in your mind is followed by the next. The person who occupies your thoughts is no more permanent than the breath itself. They come and go just as your thoughts do. In this way, the breath becomes a powerful tool for reminding you of the impermanence of the very thing that you may be clinging to. When you stop clinging to the thought of that person, when you let go of the need to hold on to them, you free yourself. The breath, steady and constant, helps you navigate through the fluctuations of your mind. When you return to the breath, you return to peace. It is through this practice of mindfulness, anchored by the breath, that you can break free from the cycle of obsessive thinking. The more you practice, the more you will find that the thoughts about that person become less frequent, less intense. The grip they once had on your mind loosens, and in its place, you begin to experience a deep sense of calm. The breath is also a gateway to understanding your true nature. Zen teaches that by turning your attention inward and focusing on the breath, you begin to connect with the deeper layers of your being. You begin to see that your thoughts, your emotions, and even your attachment to people are not the essence of who you are. You are not your thoughts. You are not your emotions. You are the awareness that witnesses them. The breath helps you reconnect with this awareness. It brings you back to your true self, the part of you that is unchanging, peaceful, and free. When you practice mindfulness of the breath, you create a space where your true self can emerge. You begin to realize that you are not the thoughts about that person, and you do not need to hold on to them. The more you practice returning to the breath, the more you will recognize that your thoughts, your emotions, and your attachments are simply passing phenomena. They are not you. You are the awareness that observes them. This realization is profound. It frees you from the belief that you are your thoughts. It frees you from the belief that the person who occupies your mind defines you or your experience. With this freedom comes peace. As you continue to breathe, feel the peace spreading through your body and mind. With each breath, you are letting go of the need to hold on to the past, to control the thoughts that arise, or to attach to the memory of that person. The breath carries you back to the present moment where everything is perfect as it is. There is no need for anything to be different. The thoughts will come and go just as the breath flows in and out, and you are free to simply observe them. This is the Zen way of letting go, the way of peace, of returning to the present, of embracing impermanence. The breath becomes your guide, your anchor, and your reminder that you are free. You are not your thoughts. You are the awareness, the observer, and in this awareness, peace resides. As you continue to deepen your practice, you may begin to notice something profound happening. The more you resist the thoughts about that person, the more they seem to persist. Zen Buddhism teaches us an important lesson about resistance. The more you try to push something away, the more power you give it. Resistance in Zen practice is viewed as an act of clinging. Clinging to an idea, an expectation, or a feeling. When you resist the thoughts of that person, you are essentially feeding them. You are giving them more space in your mind. By resisting, you are reinforcing the attachment to those thoughts. Instead of pushing them away, Zen encourages us to simply observe them, acknowledging their presence without judgment or resistance. When a thought about that person arises, instead of trying to force it out, simply notice it and let it pass. This approach might seem counterintuitive at first. It might seem easier to fight the thoughts, to try and force them out of your mind. But Zen wisdom teaches that true peace comes not from resistance, but from acceptance. When you accept that the thought is there without needing to change or control it, the thought begins to lose its grip on you. You no longer fight it, and as a result, it loses its power. Resistance creates tension. It keeps you bound to the very thing you are trying to escape. But when you let go of that resistance, you create space in your mind. You allow the thought to come, but you also allow it to go. You release the need to control it. The more you practice this approach, the less power the thoughts will have over you. They will still arise, but they won't pull you into the same emotional patterns of longing, regret, or attachment. Instead, you will observe them as temporary events in your mind, passing clouds without any lasting significance. Zen mindfulness teaches us that we are not our thoughts. We are the awareness that observes them. When you stop identifying with the thought of that person, you stop feeding it. You begin to see it for what it is, a fleeting mental event that is passing through your consciousness. The more you practice this, the less the thought will linger. The more you let go, the more the thought will fade into the background. Resistance only prolongs the presence of that thought. The more you push against it, the more it seems to persist. But by releasing the need to resist, you allow the thought to pass naturally without engaging with it. This is the essence of mindfulness, the ability to observe your thoughts without judgment or attachment. When you resist the thought of that person, you are creating a barrier between yourself and your true nature. You are allowing the thought to define you, to control you. But when you let go of resistance, you return to a place of inner peace. You return to your true self, the awareness that observes without getting entangled in the thoughts that arise. In Zen practice, letting go of resistance is a key element of the process of releasing attachment. When you stop resisting the thoughts of that person, you stop giving them power over your mind. You no longer engage with them. You observe them, and you allow them to pass. The more you practice this, the more freedom you will experience. You will find that the thoughts no longer have the same emotional charge. They may still come, but they will no longer disrupt your peace. The more you let go of resistance, the more you will find that your mind becomes clearer, more at ease. Zen teaches us that the key to mental peace is not in controlling the thoughts, but in letting them come and go without attachment. The more you resist, the more you reinforce the cycle of obsessive thinking. The more you let go, the more naturally the thoughts will fade away. You begin to break free from the mental grip that person once had on you. The process of letting go of resistance is an ongoing practice. It requires patience and mindfulness. There may be moments when you feel tempted to resist the thoughts again, to fight them or push them away. But each time you practice observing without attachment, you strengthen your ability to release the grip of those thoughts. Each time you let go, you create more space for peace in your mind. Zen teaches us that life is not about controlling what arises, but about accepting it with equanimity. It's not about suppressing the thoughts or forcing them out. It's about allowing them to come, observing them, and then letting them go. As you practice this approach, you will begin to notice that the thoughts about that person lose their intensity. They come and go without causing you distress. The emotional charge that once accompanied them fades away. And in that space of acceptance, you experience peace. The key to breaking the cycle of obsessive thinking about that person is not in resisting them, but in accepting them as they are. When you resist the thought, you feed it. When you accept it, you free yourself from it. Zen mindfulness offers a powerful tool for transforming the way you relate to your thoughts. By practicing non-resistance, you create the mental space necessary to let go of the attachment. The more you practice, the more you will experience the freedom that comes from letting go. You will no longer be a prisoner of your thoughts, no longer bound by the mental patterns that once kept you stuck in the past. Instead, you will be free to live in the present, to experience each moment as it is without the weight of attachment. Zen teaches that true peace comes when we stop resisting the flow of life. When we accept the thoughts, the emotions, and the experiences as they are without trying to control or change them, we create space for peace to enter. In that space, you are free from the thoughts that once occupied your mind. You are free to simply be in the present moment without clinging to anything. The more you let go of resistance, the more you will experience the deep peace that Zen offers. In Zen, one of the most fundamental principles is the law of impermanence, or anicca. This Buddhist concept reminds us that everything in life, including thoughts and relationships, is temporary. Nothing lasts forever. The person who occupies your mind, the thoughts that keep repeating themselves, the emotional charge that you feel when thinking about them, all of these are impermanent. They are not fixed aspects of your being. They come and go like the seasons, like the passing clouds in the sky. Zen teaches that when we hold on to something, when we grasp at it, we are fighting against the very nature of existence. The more we cling, the more we create suffering. Just as a leaf on a tree will fall, when the time comes, so too will the thoughts about that person fade when you stop clinging to them. In Buddhism, we understand that attachment to people outcomes or memories creates mental and emotional suffering. When we attach ourselves to the idea of a person, whether they are in our lives currently or not, we become mentally and emotionally bound to them. This attachment keeps the thought of that person alive in our minds, even when they are no longer physically present. But impermanence teaches us that everything is constantly changing. The person who occupies your thoughts, their presence in your mind, is simply another passing phenomenon. They are not fixed. They will change. You will change. The relationship you had with them, whether real or imagined, is not permanent. When you embrace the truth of impermanence, you are able to release the mental grip that you have on that person. You stop identifying them as a permanent fixture in your life, and instead, you recognize them as a fleeting thought. By accepting the impermanence of everything, including the thoughts of that person, you create mental space for peace to enter. Instead of clinging to the idea of who they were or what they represented, you allow them to pass by, just like any other thought. Impermanence allows you to experience freedom. You no longer feel trapped by the past, by memories, or by the emotional pull of that person. You realize that your thoughts, just like everything else, are constantly changing. The more you practice mindfulness and observe your thoughts without attachment, the more you will see that they are like waves on the ocean, rising, reaching their peak, and then falling away. When you stop trying to control them or hold on to them, they lose their power over you. Zen teaches us that by embracing impermanence, we stop resisting the natural flow of life. We stop holding on to people, ideas, or experiences that are not meant to stay. When you release your attachment to that person, you free yourself from the mental burden that comes with holding on. You allow yourself to move on to experience the present moment without the weight of the past holding you back. The person who occupies your thoughts is simply one passing moment in the continuous flow of life. Just as the seasons change, so too does your mind. Thoughts about that person, though they may have once seemed like a permanent fixture, are as temporary as the changing of the seasons. The more you practice mindfulness, the more you will notice how your thoughts evolve. Thoughts about that person may arise, but they no longer dominate your mind. They come, and then they fade, just like all thoughts. With each passing moment, you grow more aware of the impermanence of all things. You see that there is no need to cling to thoughts, to resist them, or to hold on to the past. You realize that everything, every thought, every person, every experience is temporary. When you accept this, you stop clinging to the thought of that person. You stop trying to hold on to the image of them in your mind. Instead, you let them go. And in that letting go, you make space for peace. Zen invites us to let go of the illusion of permanence. When we stop clinging to the past, when we stop holding on to people or memories, we allow ourselves to experience the freedom that comes from living in the present moment. The present moment is the only place where peace exists. In the present, there are no attachments, no past wounds, no future anxieties. There is only the here and now, where everything is in flow, where thoughts come and go without attachment. This is where true freedom lies. When you embrace impermanence, you stop resisting the natural changes in your mind, in your life, and in your relationships. You allow yourself to let go of the past and to move forward, free from the mental clutter that holds you back. The person who occupies your thoughts is simply a reflection of the past, and as the past fades away, so too do the thoughts about them. When you let go of the attachment to that person, you let go of the need to control your thoughts or your emotions. You stop clinging to the idea of them and allow yourself to experience life as it is. As you release the attachment, you open yourself to the present moment where peace resides. The person no longer occupies your thoughts in the same way. The thoughts may still come, but they no longer have the same emotional charge. You no longer feel the need to revisit the past, to analyze what happened, or to seek closure. You simply observe the thoughts, and in that observation, you let them pass. Impermanence teaches us that nothing is permanent, including our thoughts, our emotions, and our relationships. When we stop clinging to the past, when we release our attachment to the people or memories that once dominated our minds, we free ourselves. Zen shows us that the more we accept impermanence, the more at peace we become. The more we let go of the things that no longer serve us, the more space we create for peace and joy to enter our lives. The thoughts about that person will come and go, but they will no longer define you. They are just thoughts, temporary, fleeting, and impermanent. When you let go of the attachment, you will experience the peace that comes from accepting the impermanence of all things. The practice of observing your thoughts without judgment is one of the most powerful tools in Zen Buddhism, especially when it comes to breaking free from the repetitive thinking about that person. In the chaos of everyday life, it's easy to get caught up in our thoughts, especially when they are connected to something or someone significant. We give them meaning, we give them weight, and we allow them to shape our emotional landscape. But Zen teaches us to step back and observe our thoughts without attaching any value to them. When you engage with your thoughts without judgment, you free yourself from the mental patterns that keep you trapped. You begin to see that thoughts are just that, thoughts. They do not define you. They do not control you. They are simply passing mental events that arise, linger for a moment, and then fade away. This approach to thoughts is what Zen calls mindful observation. It is the practice of being fully present with your thoughts without getting lost in them. You observe them as if you are watching clouds drifting across the sky, acknowledging their presence, but not letting them pull you in. When a thought about that person arises, you do not immediately engage with it. You do not give it energy or significance. Instead, you simply notice it. There's that thought again, you might say to yourself, without judgment or emotional reaction. You don't cling to it. You don't try to change it. And you don't try to push it away. You simply observe it and allow it to pass. This practice of mindful observation allows you to create distance between yourself and your thoughts. You begin to realize that you are not your thoughts. You are the observer of your thoughts, and as the observer, you have the ability to choose how to relate to them. When you observe your thoughts about that person without judgment, they lose their emotional charge. They no longer trigger the same reactions in you. The thought might still arise, but it no longer has the same power to make you feel anxious, sad, or longing. Instead, you see it as just another thought, fleeting and impermanent. You do not attach to it, and in doing so, you create mental space for peace to enter. Mindful observation is not about suppressing or denying your thoughts. It's not about forcing them out or pretending they don't exist. Instead, it's about accepting their presence without judgment or attachment. Zen teaches us that by accepting the impermanence of our thoughts, we can stop the cycle of clinging that causes suffering. When you stop judging the thoughts about that person, you stop reinforcing the mental patterns that keep them alive in your mind. The more you practice mindful observation, the more you begin to realize that these thoughts are simply passing clouds, not permanent fixtures. The thoughts about that person may still arise from time to time, but they no longer have the same emotional grip on you. You are no longer bound by them. You are no longer emotionally attached to them. They come and go like any other thought. One of the key aspects of mindful observation is the ability to be non-reactive. This means that when a thought about that person arises, you do not react emotionally to it. You do not get pulled into the past, reliving old memories or imagining scenarios in your mind. You simply observe the thought and let it pass. In Zen, this is often referred to as non-attachment. You detach from the thought and the emotional reaction it triggers. You let go of the need to control your thoughts or manipulate them in any way. By practicing non-attachment, you allow yourself to experience freedom. You free yourself from the emotional patterns that have kept you stuck in the past, and you free yourself from the mental clutter that comes with clinging to a thought or person. Non-attachment does not mean that you stop caring about the person or the experience you shared. It simply means that you release the emotional charge and the mental attachment that keeps you bound to them. In this space of non-attachment, you can observe the thoughts with a sense of detachment. You recognize them for what they are: fleeting mental events that do not define who you are. Zen teaches us that when we observe our thoughts without judgment or attachment, we return to our true nature, the part of us that is calm, clear, and undisturbed by the fluctuations of the mind. When you observe your thoughts about that person, you are no longer a prisoner to them. You are free to let them go, to let them pass, and to return to the present moment. This process takes time, patience, and practice. It is not something that happens overnight. But with consistent mindfulness practice, you will begin to notice a shift. The thoughts about that person will lose their intensity, and you will no longer feel emotionally consumed by them. You will have created the mental space to let go, to move on, and to find peace in the present moment. The more you practice mindful observation, the more you will notice that your thoughts no longer have the same emotional grip on you. They may still arise, but they no longer pull you into the past. and they no longer define your present. You will find that you are more at peace, more present in your own life, and less consumed by thoughts about that person. Mindful observation, as taught in Zen, is a practice of awareness, acceptance, and non-attachment. By practicing this, you begin to free yourself from the mental grip of attachment. You let go of the need to control your thoughts, and in doing so, you allow them to come and go naturally. The more you practice this, the more peaceful and present you will become. You are not your thoughts, and when you observe them without judgment or attachment, you return to the peace of your true nature. This is the path to freedom from the constant mental preoccupation with that person. Simply observing your thoughts, letting them go, and finding peace in the present moment. Zen teaches us that letting go is not an act of denial or suppression. Rather, it is a conscious choice to release the mental and emotional grip we have on something. The thoughts about that person, although they may feel intense and consuming at times, do not need to hold such power over you. In fact, they are like passing clouds, familiar but impermanent. When we practice letting go, we are not trying to erase those thoughts from our mind, but rather recognizing that they do not need to define us or control us. The Zen path invites us to embrace the practice of non-attachment, which allows us to observe our thoughts without clinging to them. Non-attachment doesn't mean indifference. It means that we choose not to be bound by our thoughts, our feelings, or even our relationships. It means seeing the impermanence of all things, including the thoughts of that person, and accepting them without the need to hold on to them. Letting go requires us to release our need to control, to manipulate, or to wish that things were different. It is about accepting the present moment as it is without clinging to a past that no longer exists or a future that is yet to come. When you begin to let go of your attachment to the thoughts about that person, you stop fighting against your own mind. You stop resisting what is. Zen teaches that resistance is the source of suffering. When we fight against our thoughts or emotions, we create tension, and we hold on to things that only increase our mental and emotional burden. Instead, Zen invites us to accept things as they are. This doesn't mean that you ignore or suppress your feelings, but that you allow them to be without attaching a narrative or judgment to them. You observe the thoughts and feelings as they arise, but you do not allow them to take over. The more you let go, the more you create space for peace to enter. When you release the attachment to that person's image in your mind, you give yourself the freedom to experience life as it is without the interference of past memories. You are not tied to those memories, and you are not defined by them. You can let them go, knowing that they no longer serve you. The process of letting go in Zen is also about forgiving. Whether it's forgiving yourself for clinging to someone or forgiving the person for whatever role they may have played in your life. Forgiveness in Zen is not about excusing someone's behavior or forgetting the past. It's about releasing the emotional charge that keeps you bound to them. When you forgive, you free yourself from the mental hold they have on you. Forgiveness is a form of letting go. It is a gift you give to yourself, not to the other person. When you hold on to anger, regret, or longing, you are only hurting yourself. Forgiveness allows you to release these emotions and return to a state of peace. You are no longer trapped in the past. By practicing letting go, you free your mind from the obsessive thoughts that keep you attached to that person. You free yourself to live in the present moment where you are no longer weighed down by the mental and emotional clutter of past attachments. It is in this space of freedom that you find peace. Letting go also allows you to accept the impermanence of all relationships, including the one you had with that person. Everything in life is temporary, and relationships, no matter how significant, are no exception. When you accept the impermanence of your connection with that person, you stop holding on to it as if it is a permanent part of your identity. You realize that just as seasons change, so do relationships. The relationship you had with that person may have been important, but it is not the defining characteristic of who you are. You are not your past experiences. You are not your relationships. You are the awareness that observes them. When you let go of your attachment to that person, you are making space for new experiences, new relationships, and a new sense of self. You are free to live in the present, free to explore the world without the weight of the past holding you back. Zen teaches us that letting go is a practice, not a one-time event. It is something we must do every day, every moment. The more we practice letting go, the easier it becomes to release attachment to our thoughts, our desires, and our emotions. This is a gradual process, but with consistent practice, you will find that the thoughts about that person begin to fade. They will no longer consume your mind or your emotions. Instead, you will experience the freedom that comes with non-attachment. The act of letting go is a profound expression of trust. Trust that the present moment is enough. Trust that you do not need to hold on to the past in order to feel whole. Trust that the flow of life with its impermanence is natural and that you can find peace in surrendering to it. Trust that when you release attachment, you make space for something greater to emerge. This trust is at the heart of Zen practice. It is the trust that you are not bound by your thoughts, by your past, or by your relationships. You are free to be who you are in this moment without the weight of attachment or expectation. When you practice letting go, you are practicing self-compassion. You are recognizing that you deserve peace, that you deserve to be free from the mental and emotional clutter that has kept you stuck. Letting go is an act of love for yourself. It is an act of freedom. By letting go, you open yourself up to the present moment where peace resides. You no longer need to chase after past thoughts or future desires. You simply rest in the present where everything is enough. The more you let go, the more you will experience the freedom that Zen offers. You will find that your thoughts about that person no longer dominate your mind. You will find that you are no longer defined by the past, by memories, or by attachments. You are free to live in the present, and in that freedom, peace and joy will naturally arise. In Zen, there is a deep recognition that peace comes from within. And one of the most powerful ways to access this inner peace is through compassion. Not just compassion for others, but also for yourself. Compassion in Zen Buddhism is not merely an emotion or a passive feeling, but an active practice that invites you to approach yourself and your experiences with kindness and understanding. Often, when we are consumed by thoughts of someone who occupies our minds, we do not show ourselves the same kindness that we would show others. We judge ourselves for the thoughts we have, feeling guilty for not being able to move on or let go. But compassion asks us to approach ourselves with the same gentleness and care that we would extend to a loved one in pain. When we practice self-compassion, we allow ourselves the space to feel our emotions, to experience our thoughts without judgment, and to release the guilt or frustration that arises from our perceived inability to get over the person who has a hold on our mind. Self-compassion means accepting that it's okay to feel these emotions and thoughts. And it means recognizing that, like all things, they too will pass. Instead of criticizing yourself for being stuck or for holding on to thoughts of this person's self-compassion, invites you to be gentle with yourself. You don't need to rush through your emotions or suppress them. You don't need to force yourself into an artificial state of detachment. Rather, you allow yourself to fully experience the thoughts and feelings, knowing that by doing so, you are taking the first step toward healing. This is the power of self-compassion. It creates space for healing and growth, and it removes the resistance that makes it difficult to release the person from your thoughts. When we practice self-compassion, we acknowledge that we are not perfect. We are not immune to emotional pain or the complexities of attachment. Yet, in acknowledging these imperfections, we also extend kindness toward ourselves, recognizing that we are doing the best we can in each moment. Self-compassion allows you to let go of the pressure to fix everything immediately. Instead, it invites you to be with yourself in the midst of the struggle and to offer yourself the same patience that you would offer a friend. The thoughts of that person, while persistent, do not need to define your peace. Self-compassion teaches you to treat yourself with the same understanding and patience that you would extend to a loved one who was experiencing the same difficulty. This approach does not mean you are resigning yourself to endless mental preoccupation. Instead, it means that you are meeting yourself where you are with kindness and acknowledging that the process of releasing attachment is gradual. Self-compassion allows you to approach your thoughts about that person with a sense of curiosity and openness. Instead of pushing the thoughts away or judging them as wrong, you acknowledge their presence and ask yourself what they are trying to teach you. Are these thoughts rooted in unhealed pain, a desire for closure, or an unmet need? When you observe the thoughts with a compassionate mindset, you create the space for healing to begin. You begin to see that the thoughts, while they may have been consuming, are not permanent. They are simply manifestations of deeper emotional experiences, and they do not define you. As you continue to practice self-compassion, you will notice that the thoughts about that person lose their emotional grip on you. You will find that instead of fighting against them, you allow them to pass through your awareness without getting entangled in them. This practice of mindful, compassionate observation allows you to free yourself from the mental and emotional clutches of attachment. Self-compassion also means forgiving yourself. Often when we struggle with letting go of someone or something, we may feel guilty for not being able to move on more easily. We may criticize ourselves for not having control over our thoughts and emotions. But Zen teaches us that forgiveness is a vital part of the process. Forgiving yourself is not about excusing your behavior or overlooking your past. It's about recognizing that you are human, that you are doing the best you can, and that healing takes time. By forgiving yourself for holding on to these thoughts, you release the self-imposed judgment that keeps you stuck. You allow yourself to heal, to be free, and to move forward. When we offer ourselves compassion, we open up the possibility of letting go. We stop fighting against our thoughts and emotions and start to accept them as they are. This acceptance doesn't mean that we will always be free of those thoughts, but it means that we no longer have to engage with them in a way that causes us suffering. Through self-compassion, you begin to see that the thoughts about that person do not need to control you. They do not have to hold you back or define your emotional state. You can acknowledge them, honor them, and then let them go. This is the process of true freedom, releasing attachment, releasing judgment, and creating space for peace. Self-compassion also allows you to experience a greater sense of empathy and understanding for others. As you release the attachment to the thoughts of that person, you begin to approach your relationships with more clarity and kindness. You no longer need to carry the emotional weight of past attachments into your present relationships. This freedom opens up space for healthier connections with others and with yourself. Zen teaches that when we let go of attachment, we not only free ourselves, but also invite greater peace and joy into our lives. Self-compassion is a way to nurture that peace. It is a way to be kind to yourself, to acknowledge the struggles and difficulties that arise, and to offer yourself the gentleness and care that you deserve. Through this practice, you begin to recognize that the thoughts about that person are no longer serving you. They are simply passing mental events that do not need to control your emotional landscape. And as you embrace self-compassion, you begin to let them go, one thought at a time, until you are free. The practice of self-compassion is not a one-time event, but an ongoing process. Every time a thought about that person arises, you have the opportunity to practice kindness, patience, and acceptance. With each moment, you are letting go of the attachment, creating more space for peace, and bringing yourself closer to emotional freedom. Self-compassion is a gift that you give to yourself, and in doing so, you allow yourself to heal, to grow, and to find peace within the present moment. Zen teaches us that forgiveness is one of the most powerful practices for freeing ourselves from the mental and emotional chains that bind us. It is a deeply transformative act that allows us to release the burden of resentment, regret, and attachment. But forgiveness is not always easy. When someone has occupied a significant space in our lives, whether as a lover, a friend, or even an adversary, the thoughts and emotions tied to them can be overwhelming. In Zen, forgiveness is not about condoning the actions of others or forgetting what has happened. It is about releasing the grip that past hurts have on our minds, freeing ourselves from the emotional weight that these experiences carry. When we are stuck thinking about that person, it is often because we are holding on to unresolved feelings, anger, hurt, betrayal, or longing. These emotions, when left unaddressed, can keep us tethered to the past, preventing us from moving forward. Zen Buddhism offers a path to release this attachment through the practice of forgiveness. Forgiveness in Zen is not just about the other person. It is about freeing yourself from the emotional clutches of the past. When you forgive, you stop allowing the other person to control your emotional state. You stop giving them power over your thoughts and your peace. Forgiveness is the act of choosing not to let past events, past relationships, or past attachments dictate your present experience. It is a conscious decision to let go of the emotional hold that this person has on your mind. The practice of forgiveness begins with self-awareness. You must first recognize the thoughts, emotions, and attachments that bind you to that person. When a thought arises about them, take a moment to observe what emotions are tied to that thought. Are you feeling anger, regret, guilt, or longing? Are you replaying past events in your mind, wishing that things had gone differently? This awareness is the first step toward forgiveness. Once you recognize the emotional weight of these thoughts, you can begin the process of letting go. Zen teaches that holding on to resentment or anger only creates suffering for yourself. The person you are thinking about may have moved on, and yet you remain tied to them emotionally, carrying the weight of their actions or words. When you forgive, you free yourself from that weight. Forgiveness does not mean that you condone what happened or that you excuse someone's behavior. It simply means that you are choosing to no longer let their actions define your emotional state. Forgiveness is not about forgetting. It is about releasing the hold that past events have on you. When you forgive, you acknowledge the pain that was caused, but you choose not to let it control your mind. You choose to let go of the anger, hurt, or sadness that may have been tied to that person. This process of letting go is essential in freeing your mind from their presence. Zen reminds us that we are not our thoughts or our emotions. When you hold on to resentment, anger, or regret, you allow these emotions to define you. You allow them to shape your experience, to cloud your perception of reality. But forgiveness gives you the freedom to release these emotions, to return to a state of equanimity and peace. Forgiving that person, whether they are still in your life or not, frees you from the grip they have on your thoughts and emotions. When you forgive, you reclaim your mental and emotional space. You no longer give that person the power to trigger your emotional reactions or disrupt your peace. Forgiveness in Zen is also about understanding the impermanence of all things. Just as everything in life is temporary, so too are the thoughts and emotions tied to past events. When you practice forgiveness, you accept that everything, including the pain caused by that person, is transient. It has come and it will go. By letting go of the need to hold on to the pain, you make space for healing and peace to enter. Forgiveness is not a one-time event. It is an ongoing process. Just as thoughts arise and pass, so too will the emotional responses to those thoughts. Each time the thoughts about that person arise, you have the opportunity to practice forgiveness again. Each time you feel the pull of attachment, you can choose to release it, to forgive, and to move forward. This practice of continuous forgiveness helps you break the cycle of obsessive thinking about that person. It allows you to observe the thoughts without attachment without judgment, and without letting them control you. In this way, forgiveness becomes a practice of liberation. You free yourself from the mental and emotional burdens that keep you stuck in the past. You are no longer weighed down by the emotional remnants of old relationships, old wounds, or old attachments. Forgiveness also involves forgiving yourself. Often when we are obsessed with thoughts of someone, it is because we are holding on to guilt or regret. We may feel responsible for the way things turned out, or we may feel that we could have done things differently. Zen teaches that forgiveness of self is just as important as forgiving others. You must forgive yourself for holding on to the past, for attaching yourself to the thoughts and emotions that no longer serve you. Self-forgiveness is the key to breaking free from the mental patterns that keep you trapped. When you forgive yourself, you acknowledge that you did the best you could at the time, and you let go of the guilt and regret that keep you bound. This act of self-forgiveness creates the space for healing, for growth, and for peace. By forgiving both yourself and the person who occupies your mind, you release the emotional charge that keeps you stuck in the past. You allow yourself to move forward, free from the emotional weight that once defined your thoughts and your experiences. Forgiveness is a practice of compassion. Compassion for yourself and for others. It is an act of kindness that liberates you from the mental prison of attachment. Through forgiveness, you reclaim your peace. You free yourself from the thoughts of that person, and in doing so, you open yourself to the beauty of the present moment. You are no longer bound by the past. You are free to live in the present, unencumbered by the emotional clutter that once filled your mind. This is the power of forgiveness in Zen, the power to let go, to move forward, and to find peace in the present moment. Zen teaches that one of the most profound practices for releasing the grip that someone has on your thoughts is cultivating awareness of your present moment experience. In Buddhism, there is an emphasis on mindfulness and presence as the way to connect to peace. And this is particularly important when thoughts about a person keep intruding upon your consciousness. It is easy to be swept away by the tide of mental and emotional reactions to these thoughts. We often find ourselves lost in the story of the past, replaying moments with that person over and over, wondering how things could have turned out differently. However, Zen reminds us that the present moment is the only place where true peace can be found. When we are absorbed in the thoughts about someone from the past, we disconnect from the present. We allow our minds to wander and become entangled in stories, regrets, and desires. Zen invites us to return to the present moment and to become fully aware of what is here and now, beyond the grip of past attachments. One of the most powerful tools Zen offers in this practice is the art of breath awareness. The breath is always available and can serve as a natural anchor to the present moment. When your mind drifts back to that person, gently guide your awareness to your breath. Take a deep, conscious inhale, noticing the sensation of air entering your nostrils, and then slowly exhale, allowing the air to flow out with ease. Focus on the rise and fall of your chest, the rhythm of your body's breath. By doing so, you begin to create space between yourself and the thought. You stop attaching to the mental images or memories that are occupying your mind. The breath becomes your anchor, bringing you back to the here and now, where thoughts are just passing phenomena. The more you practice breath awareness, the more naturally it will bring you back to a grounded sense of presence. Whenever thoughts of that person arise, you can return to your breath without judgment, simply allowing the thought to pass without attaching meaning or emotion to it. Mindfulness of breath is a simple yet powerful way to reestablish presence in the moment, shifting your focus away from the past and toward the present, where peace resides. This act of returning to the breath, of grounding yourself in the here and now, is a gentle but potent way to free yourself from the mental and emotional clutches of someone who occupies your mind. With practice, you will find that the thoughts about that person become less frequent and less powerful. They no longer pull you into a cycle of longing, regret, or emotional distress. Instead, they come and go, like clouds drifting across the sky, passing by without disturbing the peaceful nature of the present. Another way to deepen your practice of mindfulness is by observing your physical sensations. In Zen, it is taught that the body and mind are interconnected. Our emotions, thoughts, and physical states are all deeply connected, and when we cultivate awareness of our body, we also cultivate awareness of our mind. When thoughts about that person arise, take a moment to check in with your body. Do you feel tightness in your chest? Are your shoulders tense? Are you holding your breath? Bringing your awareness to these sensations allows you to recognize how the body holds on to the emotional charge of the mind. When you notice these physical sensations, gently breathe into them, allowing them to soften and release. By becoming aware of your body, you bring yourself into a state of greater presence, and the thoughts about that person no longer have the same hold on you. By connecting to the body in this way, you help release the grip of attachment. You also become more in tune with your emotional responses and more able to bring a sense of calm and peace into your experience. Zen teaches that the mind and body are not separate entities, but deeply interconnected. The more we bring awareness to the body, the more we can let go of the mental patterns that bind us. This process of mindfulness, of tuning into both the breath and the body, allows you to create a sense of presence that is rooted in the here and now. When you observe the thoughts about that person without attachment, you begin to loosen the grip that these thoughts have on your mind. You create the space for peace to enter, and in that space, the attachment gradually dissolves. The more you practice mindfulness, the more you will come to realize that the past and future are not where peace resides. The past with its memories and regrets is gone, and the future with its worries and anxieties has not yet arrived. The only place where peace can be found is in the present moment. Zen teaches us to return to the present over and over, to anchor ourselves in the here and now, where all things are fleeting and impermanent. The more you practice being present, the more you will experience the freedom that comes from letting go of attachment to the past, including the thoughts about that person. Your mind will no longer be consumed by their image, and your heart will be free from the emotional weight they once carried. The practice of returning to the present moment also involves practicing non-attachment to the thoughts that arise. When thoughts about that person appear, you observe them without judgment, without engaging with them. You allow them to arise and you allow them to pass, just like any other thought. Zen teaches us that thoughts are not who we are. We are the awareness that observes them. The more we practice mindfulness, the more we realize that thoughts are temporary and we no longer need to cling to them. The more we release the attachment to our thoughts, the more peaceful and present we become. In this state of awareness, you no longer feel trapped by the thoughts about that person. They no longer consume you. You no longer feel the need to analyze, judge, or hold on to them. You simply observe them and then let them go. The more you practice returning to the present moment, the more you will experience the freedom that comes with non-attachment. Peace will arise naturally without effort, and the thoughts about that person will lose their grip on your mind. This is the Zen practice of presence, returning again and again to the present moment, letting go of attachment and observing your thoughts with mindfulness and equanimity. Through this practice, you free yourself from the thoughts that have been keeping you stuck in the past, and you find peace in the now. Zen Buddhism emphasizes the art of surrender, letting go of the need to control and allowing life to unfold naturally as it is. This principle is crucial when it comes to letting go of thoughts about someone who occupies your mind. When we become overly attached to a person, we often try to control the way we feel about them, or we attempt to force certain outcomes in our lives. We cling to the hope that things will be different, that the past can be undone, or that we can somehow change the present circumstances. Zen teaches that surrender is the opposite of control. It's about accepting things as they are, in their full imperfection, without the need for them to conform to our desires. When we surrender, we stop fighting against the present moment. We stop trying to force things into place, and instead, we allow the natural flow of life to unfold. This is a liberating realization. The more we try to control our thoughts, emotions, and attachments, the more we reinforce our resistance to what is. The more we struggle against the thoughts about that person, the more they persist in our minds. But when we surrender to the present moment, when we stop trying to push the thoughts away, we allow them to naturally fade. This is the essence of Zen practice, non-resistance to the flow of life. It's about letting go of the need to control the past or future and allowing yourself to be fully present with what is happening right now. Surrender does not mean giving up or resigning yourself to a life of passivity. It means accepting what comes without the need to manipulate or change it. When you stop resisting the thoughts about that person, you stop giving them the power to dominate your mind. Instead of fighting against them, you simply observe them. You see them as they are fleeting, impermanent, and ultimately not a reflection of your true self. The more you practice surrender, the more you will notice that the thoughts about that person begin to lose their grip. You may still think about them from time to time, but they no longer pull you into the same emotional states. You are no longer defined by those thoughts. You are the awareness that observes them, and in that awareness, you find peace. One of the most powerful teachings in Zen is the idea of non-attachment. This teaching encourages us to release our attachment, not only to material possessions, but also to the thoughts, emotions, and relationships that we cling to. When we attach to something or someone, we create a sense of dependence and an expectation that things should be a certain way. This attachment creates mental and emotional suffering, because it relies on the belief that things are permanent. Zen teaches us that nothing is permanent and that everything, including our thoughts, our relationships, and our emotions, is constantly changing. When we hold on to the thoughts about a person, we are holding on to something that is ultimately fleeting. They are thoughts in the mind, not permanent fixtures in your life. The more you cling to those thoughts, the more you create resistance and suffering. By practicing non-attachment, you let go of the mental stories and expectations that keep you bound to that person. You stop expecting them to fulfill you or to resolve your emotional needs. Instead, you simply observe the thoughts without attachment, without trying to make them mean something. Non-attachment allows you to experience the present moment with clarity and openness. It creates space for peace to enter because you are no longer defined by your thoughts about that person. You are not trying to control the past or manipulate the future. You are simply present, fully engaged in the here and now. Zen teaches us that peace comes when we let go of the need to control. When we surrender to the present moment, we create space for the natural flow of life to unfold. The thoughts about that person no longer have to control you. You stop resisting them and simply allow them to pass. Surrendering to the present moment means that you stop attaching meaning to the thoughts that arise. You stop reacting emotionally to them. Instead, you observe them with a sense of acceptance, knowing that they are temporary and that they do not define you. The more you practice surrender, the more you will experience peace. You no longer feel the need to cling to the past, to obsess over the person who occupies your mind. You let go of the emotional charge that comes with attachment, and in doing so, you make space for new thoughts, new experiences, and new emotions to arise. Surrender is a process, and it is one that requires patience and practice. It is not something that happens overnight, but with consistent mindfulness, you will find that the thoughts about that person lose their intensity. The more you surrender to the present moment, the more you will realize that you are not your thoughts, your emotions, or your attachments. You are the awareness that observes them, and in that awareness, you find peace. The more you practice surrender, the more you will see that the thoughts about that person, though they may still arise, no longer have the same grip on you. They are no longer a source of suffering. They are just passing mental events, and in the space of non-attachment, they lose their power to affect your peace. Zen teaches that true freedom comes when we let go of the need to control our thoughts and emotions. When we surrender to the flow of life, we create the space for peace, clarity, and freedom to enter. The more you let go, the more you will find that the thoughts about that person fade into the background, leaving you with the stillness and peace of the present moment. Surrender is not about giving up. It is about accepting what is and allowing life to unfold naturally. It is about releasing the need to control, to resist, or to cling to the past. Through surrender, you make space for healing, for freedom, and for peace to enter. The more you surrender, the more you will find that you are not defined by your thoughts, by that person, or by the past. You are the awareness that observes all things, and in that awareness, you are free. In the stillness of surrender, you will find that the person who once occupied your mind no longer holds the same power over you. You are free to experience the present moment as it is without the burden of attachment or resistance. This is the Zen practice of surrender, letting go, embracing impermanence, and finding peace in the present moment. In Zen, there is a deep wisdom in embracing the concept of not knowing. This is the practice of releasing the need to have all the answers, the need to understand every thought, every feeling, or every situation. It's about accepting that life, with its unpredictable twists and turns, doesn't always come with clear answers. And when it comes to the thoughts about that person, this concept can be incredibly liberating. We often find ourselves obsessing over the whys and hows of our thoughts. Why can't I stop thinking about them? Why did they leave, and what could I have done differently? These questions create a mental loop, a cycle that keeps us tied to the past, to unresolved emotions, and to the thoughts that prevent us from moving forward. Zen invites us to release this constant need for explanation and to embrace a state of openness and acceptance. Not knowing in Zen isn't about ignorance. It's about allowing life to unfold without the pressure of having all the answers. When you stop trying to force understanding, you free yourself from the mental and emotional clutches that tie you to someone or something. The act of not knowing is a surrender to the present moment. It is about accepting things as they are, without the need to control or change them. When we stop obsessing over why that person occupies our mind, we create space for clarity to emerge. By practicing not knowing, we stop trying to find definitive answers. We release the judgment that comes with thinking we should understand everything. The person who occupies your thoughts may never provide you with all the answers. They may never give you the closure or understanding you crave, but that is okay. Zen teaches us that the need for closure or resolution is a form of attachment. It is a mental story we create in our minds, a story that we believe will bring us peace. However, the truth is that closure, like everything else, is impermanent. When we release the need for closure, we free ourselves from the mental cycle of replaying events over and over. We stop clinging to the hope that we can figure it all out. Instead, we embrace the mystery of life, understanding that not everything can be explained or understood. When you embrace not knowing, you allow yourself to let go of the grip that the thoughts about that person have on your mind. You stop seeking answers from your thoughts, and instead, you accept them as they are fleeting and impermanent. Zen teaches that the mind is often clouded by attachments and expectations. When you let go of the expectation that you must understand why someone occupies your thoughts, you open the door to true freedom. You stop fighting against the flow of life. Instead of trying to control your thoughts or force them into some meaningful pattern, you simply observe them and allow them to pass. By accepting the not knowing in your life, you also accept that life is constantly changing, that people change, that situations evolve. This realization allows you to release the attachment to the idea of who that person was or what they meant to you. They are no longer fixed in your mind, and you no longer need to hold on to them as if they are a permanent part of your identity. As you practice this acceptance, you will begin to notice that your thoughts about that person lose their intensity. They no longer hold the same emotional charge. You may still think about them from time to time, but instead of getting lost in the story, you will observe the thought and let it pass. The more you practice the art of not knowing, the more you will feel at peace with the mystery of life. You will stop trying to figure everything out, to make sense of every thought or feeling. Instead, you will trust in the present moment, knowing that the answers will come in their own time. Life, just like your thoughts, is constantly in flux. When you stop trying to control it or understand it completely, you open yourself to a deeper peace. Zen teaches us that peace comes from releasing our need to have everything figured out. When you stop obsessing over the past or the thoughts about that person, you create space for peace to enter. The more you practice not knowing, the more you will notice that the thoughts about that person no longer control you. They will still come, but they will no longer carry the same weight. The act of observing without attachment, without judgment, allows you to experience life more fully, without the mental clutter of unnecessary questions and stories. You no longer feel the need to ask, "Why can't I stop thinking about them?" Instead, you accept that the thoughts are there, and that's okay. They are part of the flow of your mind, and they will pass just as everything else passes. As you continue to practice the Zen path of not knowing, you will find that your attachment to those thoughts fades. You no longer need to analyze them, to find meaning in them, or to seek answers from them. You simply let them go, knowing that they are not a reflection of who you are. You are the awareness that observes the thoughts, and in that awareness, you find peace. Zen invites us to let go of the need for certainty. It teaches us that life is uncertain, and that is okay. It is in the acceptance of this uncertainty that we find freedom. When you release the need for everything to make sense, you open yourself to the flow of life, to the present moment where peace exists. You stop holding on to the past or trying to control the future. You simply experience the here and now. Through the practice of not knowing, you return to a state of openness and receptivity. You stop forcing your thoughts to fit into a neat and predictable pattern. Instead, you allow the mind to unfold naturally, free from the need to control or define it. As you embrace not knowing, you begin to experience a deeper sense of peace. The thoughts about that person no longer have the same power over you. They may still come, but they no longer disturb your peace. You can simply observe them and let them go. This is the liberation that Zen offers, the ability to live fully in the present moment, free from the need to control, understand, or cling to any thought, experience, or person. It is in the acceptance of not knowing that we find true freedom and peace. In Zen, there is a concept called beginner's mind, or shoshin. This is the mind of openness, eagerness, and lack of preconceptions, much like the mind of a beginner who approaches each experience with a fresh perspective. It is an attitude of curiosity and non-judgment, where one is able to experience things as they truly are, without the layers of past experiences, expectations, and attachments clouding perception. When we are fixated on someone or something, we often approach the situation with a mind full of preconceived notions, past hurts, and emotional baggage. We are not seeing the situation clearly. We are projecting our own judgments and interpretations onto the person and the thoughts that arise. But when we practice beginner's mind, we allow ourselves to see things without the filter of attachment. This is particularly relevant when it comes to thoughts about that person who keeps appearing in your mind. Often these thoughts are not seen clearly. We replay the same narrative over and over, colored by our emotions, judgments, and past experiences. We project our desires or resentments onto the thoughts, reinforcing the cycle of attachment. But by cultivating Shoshin, we learn to let go of these projections. We approach each thought as a new experience, free from the weight of past stories. When a thought about that person arises, we observe it with a sense of openness, as if we are seeing it for the first time. We don't immediately label it, judge it, or engage with it based on past emotions. We simply let it come and go, with no attachment, as if it were just another fleeting experience in our mind. By practicing Shoshin, we break the cycle of obsessive thinking. Instead of being caught up in the same old stories about that person, we approach each thought with a fresh, clear perspective. This is not to say that the feelings or emotions tied to that person vanish immediately, but it does mean that we stop engaging with the thoughts in a way that reinforces the attachment. We let them come. We observe them without judgment, and then we let them go. This practice creates a mental space where the thoughts about that person are not as overwhelming. They no longer define your emotional state. They no longer hold the same power over you. You begin to experience the freedom that comes with releasing attachment. Zen teaches that everything is temporary, including thoughts and emotions. They come and go like clouds drifting across the sky. By cultivating Shoshin, you allow yourself to see the impermanence of these thoughts. You stop holding on to them as if they are permanent fixtures in your life. Instead, you allow them to pass through your mind without getting entangled in them. The more you practice Shoshin, the more you will notice that the thoughts about that person no longer have the same emotional grip on you. You are no longer attached to the stories of what could have been or what you wish had happened. You no longer hold on to the desire for closure or resolution. You simply observe the thought and let it go. In Zen, there is also the practice of returning to the present moment. This is the act of refocusing your attention on what is happening right now, without getting lost in past memories or future projections. Thoughts about that person often arise because we are mentally and emotionally stuck in the past. We revisit old memories, replay old conversations, and relive old emotions, all of which keep us anchored to a time that is already past. When we practice returning to the present moment, we break free from this cycle. We stop living in the past and start fully experiencing the here and now. By practicing Shoshin and returning to the present moment, we stop giving power to the thoughts about that person. Instead of allowing these thoughts to dominate your mind, you focus on the present moment, the sounds around you, the sensations in your body, the gentle rise and fall of your breath. You ground yourself in the here and now where peace exists. The more you practice being present, the more you will find that the thoughts about that person lose their power. They will still arise from time to time, but they will no longer pull you out of the present moment. They will no longer trigger the same emotional response. You will see them for what they are: temporary and fleeting, not permanent parts of your experience. The practice of Shoshin allows you to experience life with a sense of openness and receptivity. You stop approaching each moment with preconceived ideas or emotional baggage. Instead, you meet each moment as it is without judgment or expectation. This practice transforms the way you relate to your thoughts, your emotions, and even to that person who occupies your mind. When you approach the thoughts about that person with Shoshin, you break free from the cycle of attachment. You stop seeing them through the lens of past experiences and projections. You simply observe the thought with a fresh perspective, and in doing so, you let go of the attachment that keeps you bound to them. Zen invites us to approach each thought, each experience, and each person with a mind that is free from judgment and expectation. This doesn't mean that you deny your emotions or suppress your feelings. It means that you allow yourself to experience those emotions without attaching to them. You observe them without getting caught in the narrative. The more you practice Shoshin, the more you will experience the freedom that comes with non-attachment. The thoughts about that person no longer hold the same emotional charge. You no longer feel the need to analyze, to rehash, or to replay the past. You simply observe the thought and then let it go, knowing that it is impermanent. Zen teaches that true freedom comes when we stop attaching to the past or the future. We are free when we embrace the present moment with a mind that is open and receptive. When we practice Shoshin, we return to the simplicity of the present, free from the weight of past attachments. The thoughts about that person no longer have the same power over you. They come and go, like clouds in the sky, passing without leaving a lasting mark. And in that space of openness and freedom, you find peace. One of the key insights that Zen offers in the process of letting go is the realization that we are not our thoughts. We often identify ourselves with our thoughts, believing that the things we think are an accurate reflection of who we are. When thoughts about that person repeatedly arise in your mind, it is easy to feel like those thoughts define you, like they are part of your identity. But Zen teaches that thoughts are simply transient mental events. They come and go, like the passing clouds in the sky. When we cling to these thoughts, we allow them to shape our identity. We believe that because we are thinking about that person, we must still be emotionally attached to them, or that something about our identity is linked to that attachment. But in Zen, we learn that our true nature is not bound by thoughts. Our true self is the awareness that observes these thoughts. When you can begin to differentiate between your thoughts and your true self, you open the door to liberation. The thoughts about that person no longer have the power to define you or control your emotional state. Instead of identifying with the thought, you observe it as a passing mental event. You begin to recognize that you are not the thought, you are the observer of the thought. This practice is key to releasing attachment and cultivating peace. When you recognize that you are not your thoughts, you can let them go more easily. The thought may still arise, but instead of becoming entangled in it, you simply observe it and allow it to pass. The more you practice this, the less power the thought will have over you. You will find that the thoughts about that person no longer hold the same emotional charge. They no longer have the power to disturb your peace. Zen teaches that the mind is like a pond, and thoughts are like ripples on the surface. When we identify with our thoughts, we become like the ripples constantly shifting and changing with every thought that arises. But when we step back and observe the ripples without getting caught in them, we become the stillness beneath the surface. The ripples may come, but they do not disturb the depth of the pond. In the same way, when we observe our thoughts without attachment, we remain centered in the stillness of our true nature. The thoughts about that person may arise, but they no longer disturb the peace within you. Another key aspect of this practice is the recognition that thoughts, emotions, and attachments are impermanent. Zen teaches that everything in life is in constant flux. Nothing is fixed or permanent. When you recognize the impermanence of your thoughts, including the thoughts about that person, you stop clinging to them. You begin to see them for what they are: temporary mental events that arise and pass away. When you cling to a thought, you create resistance. You try to hold on to it to make it stay. But Zen teaches that resistance creates suffering. When you resist a thought, you give it more power. You feed it with your attention and energy. But when you accept the impermanence of the thought and allow it to pass you, create space for peace. The more you practice mindfulness and observe the impermanence of your thoughts, the less attached you will become to them. You will realize that the thought about that person, though it may have once been powerful, is just like any other thought. It is fleeting and impermanent. With this realization, you can let it go. This practice of observing the impermanence of thoughts is a powerful tool for releasing attachment. It teaches you to stop identifying with your thoughts and to recognize them as temporary mental events. You no longer cling to them, and in that release, you find freedom. Zen also emphasizes the importance of non-judgment in the process of letting go. Often, when we think about someone, we judge ourselves for still holding on. We may feel guilty or frustrated with ourselves for not being able to move on more quickly. But judgment only keeps us stuck. It creates more mental and emotional turmoil. Zen teaches us to observe our thoughts without judgment. When a thought about that person arises, instead of judging yourself for having the thought, you simply observe it. You notice the thought, acknowledge it, and then let it go. Non-judgment allows you to release the guilt and frustration that often accompany attachment. It allows you to be kind and patient with yourself. Instead of trying to force yourself to get over the person, you simply observe the thought and let it pass. Non-judgment also means not labeling the thought as good or bad. We often assign value to our thoughts based on how they make us feel. If the thought brings up emotions of sadness or longing, we may judge it as bad or unwanted. But Zen teaches us to let go of these labels. When you observe the thought without judgment, you allow it to be what it is, a thought. There is no need to judge it, to analyze it, or to attach any value to it. You simply observe and let it go. The more you practice non-judgment, the more you will release the attachment to the thoughts about that person. You will no longer see them as good or bad, but simply as transient mental events that arise and pass away. By observing your thoughts with mindfulness and non-judgment, you begin to cultivate a sense of peace and freedom. The thoughts no longer have the same emotional charge. They no longer pull you into the past or project you into the future. You are present in the moment, free from attachment to the thoughts or the person. Zen teaches that true peace comes when we release our attachment to thoughts, judgments, and expectations. When we stop identifying with our thoughts, we return to a state of equanimity and balance. We are not disturbed by the thoughts that arise in our minds because we recognize them as impermanent and temporary. The more you practice this awareness, the more you will experience the freedom that comes with non-attachment. You will find that the thoughts about that person, though they may still come, no longer have the same power to disturb your peace. They will pass by, just like all thoughts do, and you will remain centered in the stillness of your true nature. Zen teaches us to embrace the idea of impermanence, especially when we find ourselves consumed by thoughts of someone or something. The principle of impermanence, Anicca reveals that everything our thoughts, emotions, and attachments is temporary. The person who occupies your mind is no different. They are not a permanent fixture in your consciousness. Thoughts come and thoughts go. The key is to observe them without clinging. When we attach ourselves to these thoughts, we often create a mental cycle that keeps us locked in the past. We replay memories, create expectations, and hold on to the belief that these thoughts must be resolved. But Zen invites us to release this attachment. We are not our thoughts. Thoughts are fleeting, and their impact on us only lasts as long as we choose to engage with them. When we understand the impermanence of these thoughts, we stop trying to control or hold on to them. Instead, we allow them to come and go like waves on the ocean. They will rise and fall, but they do not define us. In Zen, we practice mindfulness to remain grounded in the present moment. It is the present moment where true peace exists. When thoughts about that person arise, instead of clinging to them, we simply acknowledge them as part of the ever-changing flow of our mind. They are just passing clouds. The more we practice mindfulness of impermanence, the more we realize that nothing lasts forever. The past with all its memories and attachments is already gone. The future, with all its uncertainties, has not yet arrived. What remains is the present, the space where we can experience life as it is without the burden of past attachment. When we embrace impermanence, we stop resisting life's flow. We release the need for things to stay the same or for our thoughts to remain fixed. We let go of the idea that we need to hold on to that person or the memories associated with them. Letting go does not mean forgetting. It means releasing the emotional and mental grip that these thoughts have on us. As we practice this, we create space for peace. The thoughts will come, but we no longer react to them. They come and go like the breath, brief, natural, and impermanent. This is the practice of non-attachment. We do not force our thoughts away, nor do we indulge them. We simply observe them knowing that they are temporary. When we understand that the thoughts are impermanent, they no longer have the same power over us. The grip that the person once held on our mind weakens. We can simply let the thought arise, notice it, and then release it. As we continue to practice, we find that the thoughts no longer occupy our mind in the same way. They still come, but they no longer stir up the same emotional response. We let go of the need to analyze, to question, or to resolve. We return to the present moment, to the stillness beneath the surface of our thoughts, where true peace resides. Impermanence is not just a philosophical concept. It is a lived experience. Every thought, every emotion, and every attachment is in a constant state of flux. When we accept this, we stop trying to hold on to things that are meant to pass. Instead, we allow life to unfold naturally, knowing that everything, including the thoughts about that person, will eventually fade. In this acceptance, we find freedom. We are not bound by the past, by our thoughts, or by the person who once occupied our mind. We are free to live in the present, unburdened by the mental clutter of attachment. By practicing mindfulness of impermanence, we embrace life's natural flow. We release the need for control, and we allow peace to emerge. The thoughts will come, but they will no longer control us. They will pass, as everything does, leaving us free to experience the present moment with clarity, calm, and peace. In Zen, one of the most powerful tools for finding peace is learning to embrace the present moment fully. So often, when we are preoccupied with thoughts about someone we are living in the past or projecting into the future, we are reliving old memories or imagining future scenarios. Zen teaches us that the present is the only moment where true peace resides. The past is gone and the future is unknown. But the present, this very moment, is where life unfolds. When we get caught up in thoughts about that person, we are not fully experiencing the present. We are lost in the past, replaying old events, or wondering what could have been. Zen invites us to come back to the present, to be fully engaged in the here and now. The thoughts about that person will continue to arise, but instead of getting lost in them, we can bring our awareness back to the present moment. One way to do this is through mindfulness practice, where we anchor ourselves in the sensory experiences of the present. Focus on your breath, the sensations in your body, the sounds around you. When the thought about that person arises, notice it, but then gently bring your attention back to the present. Feel the sensation of the air entering and leaving your lungs. Notice the sound of birds outside or the hum of traffic in the distance. By engaging fully with the present moment, you detach from the mental narrative that keeps you tied to the past. Zen reminds us that true peace comes when we stop clinging to the past or worrying about the future. The more we live in the present moment, the more we let go of attachment to the past, including the thoughts about that person. The present moment offers freedom. It is the space where we can experience life as it is without the distortion of past memories or future anxieties. When you return to the present, you allow yourself to experience peace in its purest form. The more you practice mindfulness, the more you will realize that the thoughts about that person no longer define you. They come and go, but they no longer disrupt your peace. Instead of allowing your thoughts to control your emotional state, you take control of where you place your attention. The present moment becomes your anchor, and in this space, you are free. Zen teaches that the mind, when left unchecked, can easily become caught up in the web of attachment. We become attached to people, outcomes, and experiences, believing that they are essential to our happiness. But the more we practice living in the present, the more we see that true peace does not come from external circumstances. It comes from within. When you practice mindfulness, you realize that you don't need to hold on to the thoughts about that person. You don't need to replay old conversations or wish things had gone differently. You simply observe the thought and then let it go. In the space of the present moment, there is nothing to cling to. There is only peace. As you continue to practice returning to the present, you will notice that the grip of attachment weakens. The thoughts about that person no longer have the same emotional charge. They come and they go without disrupting your inner peace. The more you focus on the present, the more you experience the freedom that comes with non-attachment. The past, with all its stories, regrets, and unresolved emotions, no longer has the power to control you. You are free to live in the present, unburdened by the weight of the past. Zen encourages us to embrace the present moment fully. When we do, we are able to let go of the thoughts about that person. We stop identifying with them, and instead, we return to the calm, clear awareness that is always present. By practicing mindfulness, we begin to experience the freedom that comes with non-attachment. The thoughts will still arise, but they no longer define us. They no longer pull us into the past. We simply observe them and let them go. In this way, we find peace. The present moment is always available to us. It is the space where peace resides. When we embrace it, we release attachment to the past, and we free ourselves from the hold that thoughts about that person once had on us. We let go of the mental narrative, and we return to the stillness of the present. It is in this stillness that true peace is found. Zen teaches that the art of letting go is deeply connected to the practice of mindfulness and awareness. In the act of letting go of thoughts about that person, you are practicing the very essence of mindfulness, being present with what is without clinging to any particular thought, emotion, or expectation. Often, when we become fixated on someone, we are not truly present in the moment. Instead, we are reliving past interactions, imagining future scenarios, or holding on to memories that no longer serve us. These thoughts keep us anchored in the past, preventing us from experiencing the fullness of the present. Zen invites us to return to the present moment, to stop chasing after thoughts of the past or future, and to embrace life as it unfolds right now. One of the most effective ways to begin letting go of thoughts about that person is to practice observing the thoughts without judgment. When a thought about them arises, simply notice it, acknowledge its presence, but don't attach any value to it. Don't label it as good or bad, and don't judge yourself for having the thought. Just observe it as it is an ephemeral event in the mind. This act of mindful observation is incredibly powerful because it creates space between you and the thought. You are not identified with it. You are the observer of it. As you continue to practice this, you will begin to see that thoughts, including those about that person, come and go like clouds in the sky. They are not permanent fixtures of your mind. They are just passing events that don't need to define you. This is the essence of mindfulness, observing the thoughts without attachment. The more you practice observing your thoughts with this non-judgmental awareness, the more you will find that the grip of attachment begins to loosen. Thoughts about that person will still arise, but they will no longer dominate your mind or dictate your emotional state. Instead, you will be able to simply observe them and let them go. You will stop identifying with the thought, and you will return to the present moment where peace resides. Zen teaches that when we stop identifying with our thoughts, we can experience life with a greater sense of freedom and clarity. We no longer cling to the past or project into the future. We simply experience what is here and now. In the present moment, there is no need to hold on to thoughts about that person. There is no need to rehash old memories, seek closure, or wish things had been different. The present moment is enough. When we practice mindfulness, we let go of the mental clutter that keeps us stuck in cycles of attachment. We stop holding on to thoughts and emotions that no longer serve us. Instead, we allow them to pass freely without resistance. The more we practice this, the more space we create for peace and clarity to enter. When you find yourself thinking about that person, return to the present moment. Focus on the sensations in your body, the rhythm of your breath, or the sounds around you. Ground yourself in the here and now, knowing that the thoughts will pass when you stop clinging to them. You are not your thoughts. You are the awareness that observes them. And in this awareness, you find peace. Zen also teaches that non-attachment is the key to releasing suffering. The more we attach to a thought, a person, or a situation, the more we suffer. We create expectations, we hold on to desires, and we resist the natural flow of life. But when we let go of attachment, we release the resistance, and in doing so, we find peace. The thoughts about that person, though they may arise, no longer have the same power over you. They come and go like waves in the ocean. And as you practice non-attachment, you begin to feel more at ease with whatever arises in your mind. You no longer feel the need to control or manipulate your thoughts. Instead, you simply observe them, knowing that they will pass. In this way, you experience the freedom that comes with mindfulness and non-attachment. Zen teaches that life is constantly changing, and by embracing this change, we free ourselves from the suffering that comes with attachment. Thoughts about that person may still arise, but you no longer have to cling to them. You are free to experience the present moment without the weight of past attachments. This freedom is the gift of mindfulness, the ability to observe without attachment, to let go without resistance, and to return to the peace that is always available in the present moment. By practicing mindfulness, you begin to see that the thoughts about that person, while they may be persistent, do not define you. You are not your thoughts, and you are not bound by them. The more you observe your thoughts without attachment, the more you will experience the peace that comes from letting go. The thoughts will come, but they will no longer have the same emotional charge. You will simply observe them and then let them pass. In this space of non-attachment, you find peace. Zen invites us to reflect deeply on the nature of our attachments and how they shape our emotional experiences. When we are caught in the grip of thoughts about someone, it is because we are holding on to something, a memory, a desire, or a regret that no longer serves us. Zen teaches that attachments are the root of suffering. It is our attachment to thoughts, people, or outcomes that keeps us bound in a cycle of mental unrest. In the case of thinking about that person, the attachment is often to the idea of them, to the emotions tied to them, or to the unresolved feelings that have not been processed. This attachment creates a mental loop, a cycle that keeps us revisiting the same thoughts, reliving the same emotions, and wishing for closure or change. But Zen reminds us that attachment is an illusion. Nothing in life is permanent, and clinging to thoughts or emotions that are rooted in the past only serves to prolong our suffering. In order to break free from the cycle of attachment, Zen encourages us to practice non-attachment. Non-attachment is not about suppressing feelings or denying the importance of people or experiences. It is about releasing the need for things to be a certain way. It is about letting go of the expectation that things should have turned out differently and accepting the present moment as it is. When you let go of your attachment to thoughts about that person, you stop giving them power over your emotional state. You stop allowing them to dictate how you feel. Instead of holding on to the thoughts or the story that keeps you tied to them, you allow yourself to simply observe them without attachment. You acknowledge the thought, but you do not identify with it. It is just a passing event in your mind. The more you practice non-attachment, the more you will notice that the thoughts about that person lose their grip on you. They may still come, but they no longer have the power to stir up the same emotions or reactions. You are no longer bound to them. You are free to let them come and go without getting caught in the mental cycle. Zen teaches us that attachment keeps us trapped in the past, while non-attachment allows us to live freely in the present. When we release attachment, we release the emotional charge that keeps us tied to a particular thought or person. We stop fighting against what is, and instead, we embrace the present moment as it is. In this space of non-attachment, we find peace. Non-attachment also means letting go of the need for closure. Often, when we think about someone, we are yearning for an explanation or resolution. We want answers to the questions that linger in our minds. However, Zen teaches that closure is not something that can be forced. It is not something that we can control. Closure comes naturally when we release our attachment to the outcome. When we let go of our need for things to be a certain way, we make space for the natural unfolding of life. Closure may come in time, but it is not something that can be controlled or forced. The more we try to force closure, the more we remain attached to the situation. But when we practice non-attachment, we allow the situation to resolve itself in its own time without the pressure of expectation. The thoughts about that person will no longer control you because you have released the attachment to needing a specific outcome. Instead, you find peace in the present moment where the need for closure fades. Zen teaches us that peace is found not in controlling our thoughts or emotions, but in letting go of the attachment to them. When we let go, we create space for freedom. We stop clinging to the past, and we stop projecting into the future. Instead, we return to the present, where peace resides. The more you practice non-attachment, the more you will find that the thoughts about that person lose their power. They may still arise, but they no longer define your emotional state. You simply observe them and then let them go. In the space of non-attachment, you experience freedom. You are not bound by your thoughts, your past, or your attachments. You are free to live in the present moment, unburdened by the weight of the past. This is the essence of Zen practice, the practice of letting go, of releasing attachment, and of returning to the present moment. When you practice non-attachment, you free yourself from the mental and emotional patterns that keep you stuck in the past. You are no longer bound by your attachment to that person or the thoughts about them. You are free to live in the now, where peace, clarity, and joy reside. The more you let go, the more you will find that you are at peace. You will no longer be defined by your thoughts or your attachments. You will simply be present, fully engaged in the flow of life, free from the mental clutter that once held you back. Zen emphasizes the importance of mindfulness in cultivating emotional freedom. It is through mindfulness that we come to understand the transient nature of our thoughts and emotions, including those related to a person who occupies our mind. When we practice mindfulness, we learn to observe our thoughts without attaching any meaning or judgment to them. The thoughts about that person are just thoughts. They are not permanent, and they do not need to control us. Instead of engaging with these thoughts, we can simply observe them, allow them to pass, and return to the present moment. Mindfulness teaches us to be present with what is without getting lost in the stories we tell ourselves or in the emotions we attach to those stories. When we think about someone, our minds often spiral into a narrative about what happened, what could have been, or what might still be. These thoughts can keep us stuck in the past, preventing us from moving forward. But mindfulness helps us recognize that these narratives are just that, stories. They are not reality, and they do not define us. When we observe the thoughts about that person with mindfulness, we learn to let go of the narrative. We stop attaching our emotions to the story, and instead simply observe the thoughts as they arise. This practice creates space between us and the thought, allowing us to see it as just another passing moment in our minds. The more we practice mindfulness, the more we come to realize that we do not need to cling to these thoughts. They are not permanent, and they do not need to define our emotional state. We can let them come and go without getting entangled in them. Mindfulness also teaches us to observe our emotions with equanimity. When we think about that person, we may feel sadness, longing, anger, or regret. These emotions are natural, but Zen invites us to observe them without judgment. We don't need to push them away, nor do we need to dwell on them. We simply notice the emotion, acknowledge it, and then allow it to pass. By practicing mindfulness in this way, we stop identifying with our emotions. We recognize that emotions, like thoughts, are temporary and ever-changing. They arise, they peak, and then they fade. When we stop identifying with our emotions, we free ourselves from their control. We no longer feel compelled to react to the emotions tied to the thoughts about that person. Instead, we observe the emotion, feel it fully, and then release it, knowing that it will pass. In this way, mindfulness helps us create a sense of emotional freedom. The more we practice observing our emotions without attachment, the more we cultivate peace. We are no longer at the mercy of our thoughts and feelings. We are the calm observer, watching as thoughts and emotions come and go. This is the essence of mindfulness, being present with what is without getting caught up in the mental and emotional cycles that keep us stuck. The more we practice mindfulness, the more we see that our thoughts and emotions do not define us. We are not our thoughts about that person, and we are not our emotions. We are the awareness that observes them. When we practice mindfulness, we allow ourselves to let go of attachment to our thoughts and emotions. This creates the space for peace, clarity, and freedom to enter. Mindfulness also helps us cultivate compassion, both for ourselves and for others. When we are caught up in thoughts about a person, we may be holding on to anger, regret, or resentment. These emotions are often rooted in the belief that we have been wronged or that something is missing in our lives. But Zen teaches that holding on to these emotions only keeps us bound in suffering. When we practice mindfulness, we allow ourselves to feel the emotion, but we don't cling to it. We can also practice self-compassion, recognizing that it is natural to feel sadness, frustration, or longing. Instead of criticizing ourselves for having these emotions, we can observe them with kindness and understanding. Mindfulness encourages us to approach our thoughts and emotions with a sense of curiosity and compassion rather than judgment. This helps us to release the grip that the person has on our mind. By practicing mindfulness and self-compassion, we allow ourselves to heal. We stop resisting our emotions, and instead, we accept them as they are. This acceptance is the first step in letting go of the attachment to that person. When we stop judging ourselves for having these thoughts and emotions, we create space for healing and growth. The more we practice mindfulness, the more we will find that the thoughts about that person lose their emotional grip on us. We will no longer be consumed by the need for closure, the longing for resolution, or the emotional charge that once defined our thoughts. Mindfulness brings us back to the present moment where peace resides. In this space, we are free to observe our thoughts and emotions without becoming attached to them. We allow them to come and go, knowing that they are impermanent. In this way, mindfulness helps us let go of the past and free ourselves from the mental and emotional patterns that keep us trapped. We learn to live fully in the present, unburdened by the thoughts about that person, and open to the peace that arises in the here and now. Zen teaches that the act of letting go is a practice of deep acceptance. When we find ourselves thinking about that person, it is often because we are holding on to something that is no longer in our control. Whether it's a past relationship, a missed opportunity, or an unresolved feeling. These attachments are often the root of our emotional suffering. We cling to the idea that if we could just change the past or understand the present, we would find peace. However, Zen invites us to release this constant striving for control and instead embrace the impermanence of life. Nothing is permanent, including the thoughts that consume us. When we practice letting go, we stop resisting the natural flow of life and allow ourselves to experience peace in the present moment. The more we let go of our attachment to the past, the less we are weighed down by the thoughts of that person. These thoughts no longer dominate our emotional state, and we begin to see them for what they are: fleeting and impermanent. The more we observe these thoughts without attachment, the more we realize that they do not define us. They are just passing events in our minds. The more we practice the art of non-attachment, the more we experience peace. We stop seeking answers from the past or from that person. Instead, we become more present with our own thoughts and emotions, observing them without judgment or expectation. This process allows us to release the emotional charge that the thoughts about that person once carried. Zen teaches us that peace arises when we stop clinging to what has been and instead embrace the present moment as it is. Letting go of attachment does not mean that we forget the person or the experiences we've had with them. It simply means that we stop holding on to the emotional burden that these thoughts bring. We stop allowing them to dictate our mental and emotional state. By letting go, we create space for new experiences, new thoughts, and new relationships to enter our lives. This practice of mindfulness and non-attachment helps us to return to the present moment. When thoughts about that person arise, we observe them and then let them pass like clouds drifting across the sky. We no longer need to hold on to them, and in doing so, we free ourselves from the mental and emotional cycles that keep us stuck. Zen invites us to embrace this freedom, to let go of the need to control, to hold on, and to resist. The more we practice letting go, the more we realize that we are not defined by our thoughts or emotions. We are the awareness that observes them. When we embrace this awareness, we find peace. We stop holding on to the past, and we stop projecting into the future. We become fully present, grounded in the here and now, where peace resides. The more we practice letting go, the more we free ourselves from attachment and suffering. We find that true peace is found not in the things we cling to, but in the present moment, where everything is impermanent and ever-changing. Zen emphasizes the importance of cultivating inner stillness to break free from the cycle of repetitive thinking and emotional attachment. When we are preoccupied with thoughts about someone, it is often because we are not fully present with ourselves. We get lost in the mental narratives and emotions tied to that person, and we forget that we have the power to return to the present moment where peace resides. The practice of Zen teaches us to turn our attention inward and create space within ourselves. This inner stillness is not about suppressing or ignoring our thoughts and emotions, but rather about observing them without attachment. By cultivating a sense of inner calm, we stop reacting to the constant stream of thoughts that arise. When thoughts about that person come, we do not engage with them or become overwhelmed by them. Instead, we allow them to come and go, observing them with the same sense of calm that we cultivate in our meditation practice. The more we practice returning to this stillness, the less power these thoughts have over us. They become just another passing moment, no different from any other thought. This practice of creating inner stillness allows us to detach from the emotional charge that these thoughts bring. It's not that we stop thinking about that person altogether. Rather, we stop allowing the thoughts to consume us. We allow them to be what they are, temporary and impermanent, without attaching meaning or significance to them. By observing our thoughts with mindfulness, we create the space for them to pass naturally, without being held in place by our emotional reactions. Zen teaches that true freedom comes when we stop reacting to our thoughts and emotions. Instead of trying to control them or hold on to them, we simply observe them and let them go. In this way, we return to the present moment where peace and clarity are found. The more we practice this, the more we realize that we are not defined by the thoughts that arise in our minds. We are the awareness that observes them. When we identify with our thoughts, we become trapped in them, and we are at their mercy. But when we detach from our thoughts and simply observe them, we create space for peace to emerge. The key to releasing the hold that the person has on your mind is to stop identifying with the thoughts and emotions that arise. When a thought about that person appears, you do not need to engage with it. You do not need to react emotionally or mentally. Instead, you observe the thought as it is and allow it to pass by. By doing so, you free yourself from the cycle of attachment. You stop giving that person the power to dictate your emotional state. As you continue to practice this mindfulness and detachment, you will find that the thoughts about that person lose their grip on your mind. They may still come, but they no longer cause the same emotional turmoil. Instead, you observe them with calmness, knowing that they will pass just as all thoughts do. Zen teaches that freedom comes when we stop attaching meaning to our thoughts and emotions. The more we practice letting go, the more we realize that we do not need to hold on to anything that does not serve our peace. The thoughts about that person, like everything else, are temporary. When we stop clinging to them, we create space for new thoughts and experiences to enter. We free ourselves from the emotional burden that comes with attachment. This practice of mindfulness and inner stillness allows us to live more fully in the present moment where peace resides. By releasing attachment to the past, we free ourselves to experience life as it is, without the weight of old stories or unresolved emotions. In this freedom, we find peace. Zen teaches that in order to release the thoughts and attachments that keep us bound, we must cultivate a deep sense of acceptance. This acceptance is not about resigning ourselves to circumstances, nor is it about passively enduring. It is the practice of fully embracing the present moment without resistance. When we find ourselves consumed by thoughts about someone, it is often because we are resisting the natural flow of life. We are fighting against the reality of the situation, wishing things were different, or longing for something that can never return. Zen teaches us that true peace comes when we stop resisting what is and instead allow ourselves to fully experience the present moment as it is. Acceptance in the Zen tradition is not about approval or agreement with every situation, but about acknowledging that life is as it is with all its complexities, challenges, and uncertainties. When we think about that person, we may wish that things had gone differently, or that we could have a different outcome. But Zen reminds us that we cannot change the past. The more we resist accepting the present, the more we remain trapped in our attachment to what has been. Acceptance allows us to release the grip that thoughts about that person have on our mind, instead of fighting against them or trying to make them go away. We simply accept that they are present. We notice the thoughts, but we do not attach ourselves to them. They are just passing events in the mind. Acceptance is about recognizing the impermanence of all things, including our thoughts. When we accept that the thoughts about that person are temporary, we stop clinging to them. We stop giving them the power to control our emotions. The more we practice acceptance, the more we create space for peace and freedom. We no longer need to analyze, judge, or hold on to the thoughts that arise. Instead, we allow them to come and go without attachment. Zen teaches us that the mind, like the body, is in a constant state of change. When we accept this, we stop resisting the natural flow of thoughts and emotions. We stop fighting against the mental patterns that keep us stuck. Instead, we allow the thoughts to pass naturally, knowing that they do not define us. The more we practice acceptance, the more we realize that the thoughts about that person are just thoughts. They are not permanent. They are not a reflection of who we are. When we stop identifying with them, we free ourselves from their grip. In the practice of acceptance, we also learn to be compassionate with ourselves. We may feel frustrated or disappointed that we are still thinking about that person. But Zen teaches us to approach ourselves with kindness. Instead of criticizing ourselves for having these thoughts, we simply observe them with compassion. We recognize that it is natural to have thoughts and emotions, and we do not need to suppress or judge them. Acceptance allows us to be gentle with ourselves as we navigate through the complexities of our emotional landscape. It creates a space for healing and growth. By accepting the presence of thoughts about that person, we stop fighting against them, and in doing so, we release their emotional charge. The thoughts no longer have the same power over us. We observe them without attachment, and we allow them to fade away naturally. This practice of acceptance is not about forcing ourselves to forget or let go. It is about allowing ourselves to experience the thoughts and emotions without clinging to them. It is about recognizing their impermanence and letting them pass without resistance. As we practice acceptance, we create space for peace, clarity, and emotional freedom. We stop holding on to the past, and we start living fully in the present, where true peace exists. Zen teaches that acceptance is the gateway to freedom. By embracing the present moment, we free ourselves from the mental and emotional patterns that keep us bound. We let go of the attachment to the past, and we allow ourselves to experience life as it is in all its impermanence and beauty. Zen teaches us that the key to peace lies in the ability to embrace what is without resistance or judgment. When we find ourselves consumed by thoughts of someone, it is often because we are resisting our emotional experience. We are unwilling to accept the way we feel or the thoughts that arise in our minds. This resistance creates inner turmoil as we fight against the natural flow of our emotions. Zen invites us to practice non-resistance, to stop fighting against the thoughts and feelings that arise, and to accept them as part of our experience. Acceptance is not about resignation. It is about allowing ourselves to experience whatever arises without judgment. When thoughts about that person arise, instead of pushing them away or wishing they were different, we simply notice them. We observe them without judgment, without trying to control or change them. This practice of non-resistance helps us create a space where we can experience peace in the midst of emotional turbulence. Zen teaches that thoughts and emotions are like clouds passing through the sky. They come and go, but they do not define us. When we resist these thoughts or try to suppress our feelings, we give them more power. But when we allow them to be without attaching to them, we release the control they have over our emotional state. Non-resistance allows us to experience the full range of our emotions without becoming overwhelmed by them. When you observe the thoughts about that person without judgment or attachment, you begin to see them for what they are: fleeting mental events. They arise and then they fade. They do not last forever. The more you practice non-resistance, the more you will notice that the thoughts no longer have the same emotional charge. Instead of being swept away by the thoughts, you can simply let them pass. This creates a sense of freedom as you stop identifying with the thoughts or allowing them to dictate how you feel. Zen teaches that peace comes from letting go of the need to control. We often try to control our thoughts, emotions, or even the actions of others, but this only leads to frustration and suffering. The more we try to force things to be different, the more we struggle against the natural flow of life. When we practice non-resistance, we stop trying to control our thoughts about that person. We stop fighting against the feelings that arise, and instead we allow them to be. In doing so, we free ourselves from the emotional cycles that keep us stuck. Non-resistance is a powerful tool for releasing attachment. When we stop resisting our thoughts, we stop giving them the power to control us. We stop getting lost in the past or the future. We return to the present moment where peace resides. The more we practice non-resistance, the more we experience the freedom that comes with letting go. We no longer feel the need to hold on to the past or to replay old narratives about that person. We allow the thoughts to arise, and then we let them go, just as clouds drift across the sky. Zen teaches that non-resistance is a path to inner peace. It is about accepting the present moment as it is without judgment or expectation. When we practice non-resistance, we release the grip of attachment and open ourselves to the flow of life. We stop trying to control, to hold on, or to make things be the way we want them to be. Instead, we allow life to unfold naturally. In doing so, we find peace. The more we let go of our need to control, the more we will experience the freedom that comes with non-resistance. The thoughts about that person may still arise, but they no longer have the same hold on us. We observe them and then let them go. We no longer identify with them or allow them to define us. In this space of non-resistance, we experience the peace of being present with what is without the need to change or control anything. Zen teaches that the present moment is the only place where true peace can be found. When we practice non-resistance, we let go of the past and stop worrying about the future. We return to the present, where everything is in constant flux, and we find freedom in that impermanence. The thoughts about that person, the emotions that arise, they are all part of this flow. And when we stop resisting them, we allow them to pass naturally, leaving us free to experience the peace of the present moment. In Zen, the practice of mindfulness teaches us that the thoughts we have are not permanent, nor are they a true reflection of our identity. When we find ourselves consumed by thoughts of someone, we often cling to them as if they define who we are or how we should feel. Zen, however, invites us to step back and observe these thoughts with detachment. We are not our thoughts. Our true nature is the awareness that observes them. By practicing mindfulness, we can create the space needed to let these thoughts come and go without getting attached to them. The person who occupies your thoughts is not the source of your peace or happiness. Zen reminds us that external circumstances, including relationships, are not the ultimate source of our well-being. True peace comes from within through cultivating mindfulness and acceptance of the present moment. When we fixate on thoughts about that person, we are often seeking something from them, whether it be closure, understanding, or emotional validation. These thoughts can become a form of craving, a mental attachment that causes suffering. Zen teaches us that craving is a root cause of suffering, as it is based on the belief that something outside of us can provide lasting fulfillment. The truth, according to Zen, is that peace is already within us. It is always present, regardless of external circumstances or thoughts. When we practice mindfulness, we stop looking for peace in the past or future or in someone else, and we begin to cultivate it within ourselves. By returning to the present moment and observing the thoughts about that person without judgment, we break free from the mental cycle of craving and attachment. We stop giving these thoughts the power to define us or dictate our emotional state. Instead, we allow them to arise and pass, just like any other thought. This practice of non-attachment is essential in releasing the emotional hold that someone has on our mind. The more we observe our thoughts without getting entangled in them, the more we realize that they are just thoughts. They are fleeting mental events, not permanent parts of our identity. In this space of detachment, we find peace. Zen teaches us that everything is in constant flux. Just as our thoughts and emotions arise and pass away, so too do our attachments. When we practice mindfulness, we recognize that no thought, no feeling, and no attachment lasts forever. The more we embrace this impermanence, the less we cling to thoughts about that person. We realize that these thoughts, while they may be persistent, are temporary. They do not define who we are or control our emotional state. When we observe these thoughts without attachment, we create space for new experiences and emotions to arise. We stop holding on to the past, and instead, we allow ourselves to fully experience the present moment. This practice of mindfulness helps us break free from the emotional cycle of attachment and allows us to live with greater freedom. We no longer need to be consumed by thoughts about that person or by the desire for closure. We learn to let go and return to the present where peace exists. Zen teaches us that peace is not something to be found outside of ourselves. It is something that arises when we stop attaching to thoughts, emotions, and external circumstances. When we release the need to control or hold on, we make space for inner peace. The more we practice mindfulness, the more we realize that we are not defined by our thoughts. We are the awareness that observes them, and in that awareness, peace resides. The thoughts about that person may still come, but they no longer have the same emotional charge. We simply observe them and then let them go, knowing that they are impermanent and do not define our true nature. In this way, mindfulness becomes the key to emotional freedom. When we stop attaching to thoughts and emotions, we allow ourselves to experience the present moment fully. We stop living in the past, and we stop projecting into the future. Instead, we return to the here and now, where peace resides. Zen invites us to explore the concept of non-attachment more deeply, particularly as it relates to the thoughts and emotions that arise in our minds. When we are consumed by thoughts about someone, we often find ourselves stuck in a loop, repeatedly thinking about the same things, replaying old conversations, or imagining different outcomes. These thoughts seem to have a grip on us, pulling us back to a past that no longer exists or a future that may never come. Zen teaches that when we attach to these thoughts, we are not living fully in the present moment. We are trapped in a mental cycle that prevents us from experiencing peace. To break free from this cycle, Zen encourages us to practice non-attachment. which means we stop identifying with our thoughts and emotions. We begin to observe them as they are fleeting mental events that come and go. The key to breaking the grip that thoughts about that person have on us is to stop engaging with them. Instead of getting caught up in the narrative of what happened or what could have been, we observe the thought without judgment or attachment. We acknowledge the thought's presence, but we do not let it define us. By practicing non-attachment, we stop reacting to the thought. We let it come and go naturally, without allowing it to take hold of our emotional state. Over time, as we practice non-attachment, we begin to notice that these thoughts lose their intensity. They no longer hold the same emotional charge. Instead of feeling sadness, anger, or longing, we begin to experience peace as we release the attachment to these emotions. Zen teaches that the mind is like a river constantly flowing and changing. Thoughts and emotions are like the ripples on the surface of the water. When we try to control or hold on to them, we disrupt the natural flow of the river. But when we let go and allow the thoughts to pass without interference, we restore the natural rhythm of the mind. The more we practice this, the more we return to a state of calm where thoughts no longer control us. The thoughts about that person may still arise, but they no longer define our emotional state. We are no longer at the mercy of our thoughts. We are free to observe them without becoming attached to them. This practice of non-attachment does not mean that we stop caring or that we suppress our emotions. It simply means that we do not let our thoughts or emotions control us. We experience them fully, but we do not cling to them. We do not allow them to become permanent fixtures in our minds. Instead, we let them flow, just as clouds drift across the sky. Zen teaches us that peace comes from releasing the need to control or hold on to our thoughts and emotions. We stop resisting the natural ebb and flow of our mental and emotional states. We allow ourselves to experience whatever arises without judgment or attachment. In doing so, we return to the present moment, where true peace is found. The more we practice non-attachment, the more we experience freedom. We are no longer bound by the thoughts about that person, nor are we defined by them. We are free to live fully in the present, unburdened by the past or the future. Zen offers us a path to emotional freedom through mindfulness and non-attachment. By letting go of the grip that thoughts and emotions have on us, we open ourselves to the present moment where peace and clarity exist. The more we practice this, the more we realize that our thoughts are just that, thoughts. They come and go, but they do not define us. We are the awareness that observes them. And in this awareness, we find freedom.